wasn't looking for a lover. Nobody understood where I've been. I guess I thought I needed more time to protect my love from potential offense. So I then you and you, but I so you and I'm not surprised by what I found, 'cause I know I needed something different, and it had to be you. Out the blue, somebody who listened, and it had to be you. Out of all the people to reply, my love couldn't be just anyone. My baby, it had to be you. I didn't seem to notice that you were checking for me. We were just friends, but we started building trust, and my fragile heart started to bend. Yeah, I should have paid attention. You would have been the obvious choice, but I needed time to see clearly, dig deep and cut through the noise. So I, then you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. A hopefully momentous Monday. Hopefully you get to hit the ground running on a Monday, the beginning of the work week. Gain some momentum, finish strong. Good morning, everybody. On today's show, I want to talk about numerous things. Kamala Harris says America's not racist. Twitter, really the internet exploded. We will discuss. And she was recently in Cincinnati. Yeah. Did you know that? I'm sure you did. That image at the bottom on the right there, that is a very sad story. The daughter of an activist, as I understand it, a Black Panther. Now that as the news is back and forth on that, but someone who is invested in trying to get equity for Black and brown people, his daughter came up missing, and they recently found her, and it was not good. The police have arrested suspects, and it's just heartbreaking that it appears, at least that's what the suspects are at this point with this initial arrest. You never know the real truth. We're too far away to really have a bird's eye ground view of it. But in terms of the arrest, it looks as if it was some Black folks that may have abducted and murdered this young girl. We'll talk about it. Very, very sad. I mean, her father out here trying to get equity policy intangibles for Black folks. And if you believe the arrest, because we never know, my country tis of thee, I don't give a damn what Kamala said. We understand my country tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, don't always deliver liberty. We already know that. So we don't really know what went down, but I want to give you the news as is being reported. Just a heartbreaking story there. We must discuss this morning. 513-873-7134. I hope you had a great weekend. It's a beautiful day in Mr. Ivy's neighborhood. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, what's up, Tim? He says, imagine that. It's a beautiful day in Mr. Ivy's neighborhood. We're getting a little bit of a late start. Want to give you a heads up. Got a couple of guests coming up. So at 8:30 a.m., got a brand new show coming to CDM. And the host is someone who has a career in broadcasting. You might, when this person hits the stage this morning, you might remember this person. This person had an iconic show in the Cincinnati area. So I'm very pleased to be working with this individual. And you'll find out at 8:30 a.m. At 9 a.m., we're scheduled to speak with Gavi Bechtrup. He is running for mayor. I read this morning that the Cincinnati Enquirer was reporting that we could break a record. We could break a record in terms of a record turnout for a primary such as we're going to have tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow's election day. I also want to talk about some of those ballot issues and give you a very strong opinion. And I'll even give you a strong opinion about the mayoral candidates as well. Yeah, voter turnout could break record for mayoral primary. That would be great. I would love to see records broken in terms of the black turnout. That would be significant. But across the board, I'll take it. We'll find out in what, 48 hours, something like that. We'll find out. So sit tight, family, because I want to give you a chance to like and in particular share today's show. Again, when you share the show, more people see it. And we'll get started in about 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
City of mine, how I love the city of mine. It never gets me down. City of mine, how I love the city of mine. It never gets me down, yeah.
I was born in the city, I was raised on its edges. My pop worked his life on its complex. I found love in its center. If I could live here forever, think it'd be for the better. I love the weather, even though it's fog 24/7. I love the people. This is the city I met all my best friends, and I wanna thank every brick. I wanna thank every entrance to every building that I step in this city of mine. Oh, you most my best moments in life. See, I fell in love for the first time in Golden Gate Park. I saw my first rap show at Great American Hall. I used to beg my homies for a ride across the bridge to goof off and spend the whole damn day doing whatever we want. Keith drove us down to Ice Place while we roll up a blunt, and me and Jack would get stoned, walk around and get lost. Don't think I'll ever truly pay back all I was lucky to get just by walking through the city. No, I'm a small part of this.
City of mine, how I love this city of mine. It never gets me down. City of mine, how I love this city of mine. It never gets me down.
I never really had a place to call my own, so I travel and I roam till I find that. But I'm full of adventure, so I wander and I venture, and it's safe to say that really I don't mind that. I book a flight to try to figure where my mind's at, a spot where I don't spend no money, just some time at. I mix and mingle with the people till I learn a little. I brought some weed and baby, maybe we could burn a little. She said you're funny, I said no, I'm David, and I left. Sun shining, birds chirping, let me take a breath. I'm headed to the city where my chance to make it
All right, I
best.
want to give you a second to like and in particular share today's show. Good morning. I've done that. Good morning. Good morning. Let's get into it. So what's been going on? What did I miss? What did I miss? What's up? How are you? Good morning to you. Hope the world is treating you fairly. Hopefully you're doing well. The weather outside is a little bit, it's rainy, but it's great to be alive. A little cold outside, but it's great to be alive here in greater Cincinnati area. How are you, wherever you might be? Good morning, and good morning. Got a lot of interviews set up for this week. So today at 8:30, we got a brand new podcast that's going to be joining CDM, and looking forward to that. It'll give a different perspective and potentially hit a different part of the audience out there. Very, very looking forward to that. That's at 8:30 a.m. expecting a Zoom call. At 9 a.m., we're expected to get a Zoom call from Gavi Bechtrup. He is running for the mayor of Cincinnati. How's that mayor's race? Here we are the day before. I want to know. Just leave a name. Who are you voting for mayor of Cincinnati? I'd like to know. Who are you voting for mayor of Cincinnati? I'd like to know. And how do you feel about issue 3? How do you feel about these ballot issues that are sort of called anti-corruption? I want to talk about all of that today, give you some very strong and hopefully useful opinions if you haven't already voted. Many of you might have already early voted. I'm a big proponent of early voting. I once camped outside overnight outside of the downtown. Back when the Board of Elections was downtown, camped outside to advocate for early voting. It was fun too. It was just like adult summer camp. It was so much fun. I think they caught me on the news slumbering. That's how they want to catch it. A local iconoclast such as myself when I'm sleeping. Now, when I'm awake and his brain is working, connected to this mouth, they ain't got nothing to say. But when a boy is knocked out sleeping, it's like, oh, there's Nathan Ivey. He's a talk show host. Okay, great. I know how you work. City of mine. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. What did I miss? I saw the Lakers ain't looking good. LeBron's out again. I don't see the Lakers winning no championship this year. I mean, when you get 36, 37, that's the difference between being 26 and 27. Your body don't snap back like that when you get a high ankle sprain. Your body just don't recover. And I saw a quote from LeBron James, who last night had to leave the game early because he tweaked that same ankle. Woo, it's amazing, man. You can be an Iron Man for years, and an ankle can take you out the game. That's old age, man, or just age. I won't say he's old because 36 isn't that old, or was he 37? But in terms of basketball years, we could have seen the best of LeBron James could be behind him. I do not see the Lakers winning a championship at this point. I do not see it. It's going to be a brand new champion this year, which can be fun and exciting. We'll see who's going to be. Maybe it'll be the Clippers. That'll be fun and exciting. Maybe it'll be the Nets. But it won't be, I don't see it with LeBron. They're getting beat by bums. With LeBron out there, chemistry's off. He's been gone for 6-7 weeks. All my LeBron fans, I ain't happy about it now. Because I roll with LBJ, but I don't see it happen. I gotta be real with you. That's a wrap. Where my Laker fans at? It's a wrap. Because you ain't winning shit without him out there. And even with him out there, he's gimpy. I don't see it. I hate to say it, but I don't see it. So a new champion, I think, is coming in the NBA for my NBA fans out there. I haven't even been watching any of the games. I don't think I've watched any game. I've watched everything on YouTube, House of Highlights, and other places. That's it. It's just, many years ago, I started watching regular season games, period. I mean, I'm just about the playoffs now, but LeBron's been gone. AD's been gone. Nothing to watch. Why waste the time? Good morning to you. I can see LeBron making that transition. He'll be the elder statesman, pass the reins to the young boys, let them do it, and come off the bench, like Tim Duncan did. You know what I'm saying? He'll be out there, but the young boys will get it in. Every once in a while, he'll be a flash in the pan, give you a double-double or 20 and 10, something like that. But them days is behind him. Pushing a point with a gimpy ankle in today's NBA at 36, 37? How you gonna keep up with the LaMelo Balls of the world? He can't keep up with them cats. It's a wrap. I ain't hear it. I'm not happy to hear it because I want to see him get at least one more ring so he can tie Kobe because he way better than Kobe. But I don't want to get all into that. I put it out there. 513-873-7134. Kamala Harris. This goes back to last week. She did an interview with Good Morning America. And they asked her, she did an interview the day after the State of the Union address, and everybody talked about Uncle Tim. And she did an interview, and she was asked by George Stephanopoulos, did she agree with Uncle Tim? That's Tim Scott, the only black senator. He would be the only black senator. I mean, how can we even have a conversation about whether America is racist or not when the only black senator in America is Tim Scott? I mean, you can rest your case right there. That says it all. Smooth baby skin. Anyway, so she was asked a straight up question like, do you agree with Tim Scott that America's not racist? She said, yeah. And Twitter exploded. The internet exploded. People have been talking about it ever since. They've been dragging her. And I'd like to know whether you believe her or not. I mean, is that a fair assessment or not? Is America racist? I mean, how could America be racist when we've had the first black president and now we've got the first black VP? How could America be racist? How could America be racist when LeBron James is worth almost $1 billion and Jay-Z and Beyonce are worth almost $1 billion independently, $2 billion together? How could America be racist when you've got all these black entertainers who are making so much money? How could America be racist? My question is, how could America not be racist? I mean, at the top of the list is America will always be racist until America pays the debt that it owes FBA, Foundational Black Americans, to use a term from Tariq Nasheed. We can't even have a conversation about whether America is racist or not until America pays that debt, period, off the top. The fact that America has not paid its debt is the number one clear indication that America is racist. I don't give a damn about nothing else. You can't even get past that. You know what I'm saying? You can't even get past that. That's like saying you sorry, but you never said you're sorry. How can you say you're sorry? How can you truly show remorse and you've never said you're sorry? And the way that a country says it is sorry when you've oppressed and stolen from a group of people is reparations, period. The fact that we have not been paid reparations is the biggest indicator that America remains racist, because this is an open and shut case. Everybody know the debt is due, but it's that racist core of America that prevents the checks from rolling out, period. I just rest my case right there. We don't have to talk about any other facet of American life. We can stop right there. None can disagree with that. Or do you? 513-873-7134. We don't even have to talk about the American judicial system and how it's been used as a weapon against us. We don't even have to talk about the police or the redlining of the banks and financial institutions. We ain't got to talk about nothing else. We just can't even get past that. What prevents the checks from rolling out? Racism, period. Straight up. That's it. There's no other conversation about it. Everybody else got paid. Everybody else getting paid. But foundational Black Americans, I'm just using a term that I think people are familiar with to make a point. You may not have to, you don't have to, you might say ADOS. So cool, whatever term. I'm talking about the folks that this country's backs, this country's foundation was built off of their backs. Those folks, they still ain't got paid. We don't need to go no further. I think that Kamala is the VP. And if you're the VP, you never want to upstage the president, right? So when she was asked that question, plus, she's a little different. You know what I'm saying? Her background is different. Her marital situation is a little bit different. So she's got a different perspective. And you also got to remember, she just got elected VP. So from her perspective, she's like, how can America be racist when this Black girl was elected the first Black vice president? So, I can understand it, but girl, child, please, as Ocho Cinco might say, child, please, sit your ass down. I saw a lot of people was on Facebook like, you down at Black owned, but where's that Justice and Policing Act, sis? You down at Black owned, which I thought was great. She stopped by Black owned and got her some coffee and got a t-shirt. A shout out to them. I seen a movie recently, or I seen a clip of a movie in which one of the characters was wearing a Black owned t-shirt. I think it was a movie called Wrong Turn, something like that. I was like, wow, they brand is all over the place. That is great. But that ain't no equity policy intangibles, Kamala. Come through with the equity policies and or tangibles. That's great. You bought a t-shirt from Black owned. That's great. You got some coffee from Black owned. Great. But so fucking what? And it's great. It's great for them. And I think it's great for just Black businesses in general. Really, it's great for Black owned and a good look for the city. It's a great photo op. But photo ops are not equity policy intangible, sis. Everybody know that. Everybody know that everywhere in the world. Everybody knows that. Good morning to you. Janice writes, the American system is racist. And then I think the other thing is that she's on TV. She doesn't want to upstage the president, and they're trying to lay the groundwork. They know how the Republicans are. The Republicans, if she would have said America is racist, oh my gosh, she would have been the new Hillary Clinton. Which, what I would say to Kamala is, you're going to be the new Hillary Clinton no matter what. It really doesn't matter what you say. They're going to vilify you. They're going to turn you into a villain for their own political purposes no matter what. So you might as well keep it straight up. And then here we are, 100 days with the Biden administration. And I'm wondering, how do you feel about these first 100 days? And in particular to Black voters, do you feel as if the issues and concerns of Black voters have been put in the forefront within these first 100 days? I'd like to get your thoughts. If you're asking me, in my opinion, I'll tell you straight up, no. Hell no. I don't hear enough. I don't see enough. I'm hearing all this other shit. And yeah, I know you got to deal with COVID, but those first 100 days sets the tone for all the other days to follow. And think what you want. The Biden administration don't really have a whole lot of time to try to really push for stuff. They ain't got a whole lot of time because them midterms coming up real soon. Then you get right back into, if we're not already in a political season. So all the people like, well, just wait until the second term. You did that shit with Obama. And I told folks, second term? What do you mean second term? I want my shit right now. I want my shit on first term. But we shall see. It's still early, right? We shall see. I tell you one thing. I'm glad I don't have to see Trump's orange face anymore. I got tired of the Trump show. The Trump circus, the Pence Trump circus, his press secretaries. I got sick of the lies every single day. Some might say, what's the difference, Nate? I don't know. These people may have a point. We shall see. We'll find out together. The old-fashioned way, right? We'll do it together. Brenda's in the house. She writes happy Monday. Tracy writes hi. Ashley writes good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Happy Monday. Sharp writes good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Welcome to the first week of May. First quarter of 2021 is over. Don't forget to vote in tomorrow's primary. You already know it. Hey, what's up, Brent? Sarah, what's up, brother? Grand Risings family. Tomorrow is the primary for the mayor's race, and we will see if issue 3 lives or dies. Get out and vote. And I saw the images you put on Facebook. I wasn't able to get out to it, obviously, Sarah, but I do support you, brother. People don't know he is running for city council. He was looking sharp too, man. And I'm expecting a platform to be as equally as sharp as you were dressed. Brother's looking real sharp. I love the color combos. Looking real sharp. I would expect nothing less from you, brother. So I can't wait to hear more about it. But it's right. The election is tomorrow. So I want to know a couple things. One, who are you voting for mayor? If you don't mind. If you don't want to share, you don't have to. You just type a name. I'm just curious. I want to do an unofficial chop shop poll. Who are you voting for mayor? And don't think that mayoral candidates will not be chiming in and paying attention, because they will be. Who else? How do you feel about the particular issues? Issue 3. And all of the all of the 3 major political parties came out against issue 3. A lot of people are against issue 3. And I'll be honest with you, the iconoclast in me that makes issue 3 even more attractive to me. Because what I'm saying is that I hear a lot of lip service when it comes to affordable housing, but I don't see a lot of action. And see, sometimes it's kind of like the baby bird. You ever see like those National Geographic television shows, and they get the little baby bird, and mama bird keeps bringing earthworms and centipedes and whatever else she can pick up back to the birds. The birds are chirping with their mouths open. Chirp, 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 mommy, right? Then at some point, the bird gets a little older, and it's time to learn how to fly. And the little bird looks out the nest, and it's just too afraid to jump. The mother just pushes the bird out, right? Sometimes you got to do that. And maybe that's what we have to do when it comes to affordable housing. Now, I know that, and I can't remember who wrote the article. There's some folks with the Cincinnati Enquirer, and their opinion is, and I don't share this opinion, their opinion is that this is some anti-policing measure. Like, really what you're trying to do is to defund the police on the low. And as I posted in that group, I'm like, see, this is why we can never get ahead in Cincinnati, because we're afraid of bold moves. We're afraid of bold moves. Now, I'll be honest with you. Have I sat down and looked at the budget? Can I tell you 100% that I know for a fact that there is $50 million available? No, I haven't. But what I also know is that we seem to find money for all the shit that we really want to do in this city. We always seem to find the money to do the shit, to do what we want to do. We seem to be able to find the money for it. And so if that's the will of the voters, what I would tell elected folks is go find the money. Make it happen, Captain. Make it happen. Think outside the box. Get radical. Okay, draw outside the lines a little bit. Come up with some new ideas, some new revenue streams. Rethink and reprioritize, the way we spend our budget already. That's what I was saying. Like, if that's what the will of the people is, and you're an elected official, go make it happen. Simple as that. Go make it happen. So I get it. Everybody's saying we can't afford it. Okay, maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. But I've yet to hear any really, really good ideas that would rise to the level of investment as this issue 3 proposal. I've heard people say this, that, and the other, but doesn't seem to rise to the level. A lot of it seems to be lip service and if it shoulda, coulda, woulda, and what I might do, but nothing really concrete. That's what I've heard. from even the mayoral candidates. So, you know what I'm saying, until a better idea shows up, you know, roll with that one. I don't know. Again, it's just something about it. When I see everybody coming against it, I'm like, this must be a good idea. It's the iconoclast in me. I can't turn it off. The more people say no, the more I'm like, this is exactly what we need to do. I can't be alone in that. I cannot be alone in that. 513-873-7134. I know I think a little differently than your average Cincinnati. And I know it's a blessing. And some mornings a curse, but it's an overall blessing. Most definitely it is. You can be baptized with the flow every single morning from a brother that thinks outside the box, who lives in greater Cincinnati area, because too many people in Cincinnati think inside the box. It's the same old thoughts, the same old way of doing things, the same old, just like the Bengals. You know, the Bengals came up with some, I've been telling the Bengals through this show, through this microphone for years, to change the uniforms, radical changes. They finally make some changes, and it's incremental. They want to do baby steps. Change. If you're going to make a change, change it. Change it. Then I read that people were like, this is the same old uniform. You just slightly changed the stripes a little bit, which is exactly what they did. It should be a radical change, but we want to hold on to tradition. Even when tradition doesn't serve us in Cincinnati, we want to hold on to it. Hold on to it with dear life. This is tradition. Hold on to it, Cincinnati. And so afraid to step out and do something new and try something new, man. Now, I know I'm speaking to the choir because there's a lot of smart, intelligent, outside of the box thinkers that comprise this audience. I'm talking about everybody else. I'm talking about not us. I'm talking about everybody else. Oh, with their same old thoughts, do the same old thing with a slight, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing with a slight teeny weeny variation and call it radical. Yeah. Welcome to Cincinnati. Welcome. Anthony writes, good morning, Chop Shop, or morning Chop Shoppers. Get it right. Ronald writes, good morning, Chop Shop. Thank God it's Monday. Key C is in the house. What's up, brother Key C? Down in Atlanta. X-Squad affiliate, squad up. What's up with you, brother? It's been too long, man. We got to catch up. Glenn is off of Facebook jail. That's funny because Donnie was like, where's Glenn at on the last show? He must be in Facebook jail. And I was like, nah, he ain't in Facebook jail. And then I saw on Facebook that he had just got out of Facebook jail. What did you do this time, brother? Damn. I think Facebook is picking on us, man. It's just so many people in the audience, man, I've heard have been put in Facebook jail. And then, you know, on Monday, you know, Facebook was effing with me with our stream. They stopped the stream. I had to put it up again because we was talking. I was talking that straight dope. Speaking of which, I gave the ladies of the Chop Shop some homework. I asked you to take the Steve Harvey Challenge. And I'd like to know the results of the Steve Harvey Challenge. If you missed the show on Friday, I did 3 OMG relationship stories that you might have missed, including a little bit of a, controversy that Steve Harvey caused when he said that men and women fundamentally cannot be friends, and that a lot of women out here think they have platonic male friends. And what you really do is you got a dude just waiting for you to say, yeah. He's just waiting around to see that chink in the armor or to see his way in. Your boyfriend messes up. Your husband messes up. Ooh. And this dude's out there willing to flush your whole friendship down the toilet if that means they can sleep with you for one night. And Steve told the truth. And he offered a challenge for women out there. There was some women that was resisting in the audience on Friday. He said, listen, ladies, if you doubt what I'm saying, then go to some of your so-called platonic friends and ask them, like hypothetically, if you wanted something more, like if you wanted a more intimate relationship, would they be open to it and see what happens? And so I'm calling it the Steve Harvey Challenge. So raise your hands, ladies. What's the results? Did anybody take the Steve Harvey Challenge over the weekend? And if so, what are the results? I already know what the results are. I already know because I'm a man. So I already know what the results are. But are there any ladies that, tried this hypothetically with some of your platonic male friends? And what were the results? Let me skip ahead here. What was the results, lady? Kiki writes, she writes, I had to work on Friday, so I missed the challenge. She missed the challenge. Kevin writes, break glass dudes, right? Yeah, we just friends. We just like Marvel comic books and we like the same Netflix movies. Sure you are. Until he sees a way in and he will bet it all for a night with you or a couple nights with you. It'll be worth it. Like, oh, we can't be friends no more. Yeah, I miss it. But he got what he wanted now. Let me see here. Crystal writes, no comment, Crystal. I know you said you was gonna go a little further than that. But did you take the Steve Harvey challenge on Friday, Crystal? And if so, I'd like to know what you think. What happened? The Steve Harvey challenge. That is funny. That is funny. Kiki writes, I have platonic male friends. I don't give a damn what they want. I'm not going to do anything to mess up my beautiful marriage with my king husband. I'm not suggesting that you do. I was just trying to test. I already know the answers to Steve Harvey's theory with the Steve Harvey challenge. It was some ladies like, nah, this ain't true. It ain't true. Yeah, okay. And I gave you some caveats from my own personal experience. I need to go back into it. That was on Friday. Today's Monday. But I am curious, ladies, if there's anybody out there, I think Pamela, you out there, Pamela? Pamela. Yeah, I remembered. She's like, this ain't true. Well, you go take the Steve Harvey challenge and see if it's true or not. I'm not saying go through with it. I'm just saying, just test your platonic friends, male friends, and see if it's true or not. Janice writes, good morning. Tim writes, imagine that. Brenda writes, good morning from Fairfield. Good morning to Fairfield and to you as well. Brent writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers, checking in from Dallas, Texas. Good morning. Janice writes, getting so, I look forward to Monday. That's right. I look forward to every day. I'm telling you, man. All it takes is a near brush with death. You're gonna smell the air is gonna smell a little differently. Food's gonna taste differently, man. Your whole world's gonna change. Don't go out that way. Be better than me. Sean writes, morning Nate and the Choppers, hashtag alt middle. Oh, you just 100% with the alt middle now, huh? They got them a new recruit. Damn, Sean. Damn. I guess, man. Janice writes, the American system is racist. I believe I read that. Tracy writes, hi. Kelly's on YouTube. She writes, good morning. Good morning to you, Kelly. Looking good with the shades. Glenn writes, record turnout could spell doom for issue 3 unless that possible record turnout is black, brown, and working class people. You heard it here first. Yeah, I mean, voter turnout could break record for Cincinnati Mayoral primary. It's written by Scott Wortman on May 2nd, so going back to yesterday. And early voting totals in Hamilton County show a higher than usual number of people casting ballots. Now, is that because there's been so much fear mongering about issue 3? There's been a lot of fear mongering out there, even from some Inquirer reporters, fear mongering, telling people that this is really a plot to defund the police. And you know that the suburbanites, in particular, white suburbanites, that's a nerve now. That's a nerve. We need the police to protect us from the angry black and brown hordes. Oh, dear Lordy, right? So is it fear mongering, or people just have more of an awareness of just how is it the so-called corruption measures that are on the ballot? People just feel so emotional about corruption in City Hall, and so they want to do something about it. Or is it because you got, a competitive field with the Cincinnati mayoral primary? I don't know. We'll find out afterward. They did talk to one woman. Her name is Ava Whitson. She's 21. She appears to be a white female. She voted early. They talked to her. She said her big issue was supporting issue 3. And again, that's the so-called controversial proposed charter amendment that would require Cincinnati to spend $50 million a year on affordable housing. And again, the more and more I hear that the Democrats, the Republicans, the charter rights, all these candidates, the mayoral candidates are against it, it makes me for it. The more I hear all these people against it, it makes me for it. And the question I keep coming back to is, who's got a better idea? And if they got a better idea, then why didn't they put it on the ballot? And we keep kicking the can down the road when it comes to affordable housing. And something tells me until the system is forced to deal with it, they never will. That's how I feel about affordable housing. And until City Hall is forced to deal with it, and I mean forced to deal with it, they never will. They'll keep kicking the can down the road, and the same old with folks that keep all saying the same things that sound good, but they ain't did a damn thing about it. Nobody's done anything about it. And that's because the people that have the power to do something about it aren't really touched by it. They living good in Cincinnati. They're living real good in Cincinnati, so they ain't really touched by affordable housing. So it's like, it's an issue. Yeah, I know it's an issue, but it's not an issue, right? Because you know how humans are. Until it hits you at home personally, most folks don't give a damn. That's just the hard and heavy of it. Stop me when I'm wrong. It's a damn shame that we have to come to this anyway. All these good-hearted, good-natured people, they care so much about working class folks. We care so much. Ain't did a damn thing about it. Nothing. Nothing of any substance. Everybody knows it. You talk to the Democrats, they know about it. The Republicans know about it. The charter rights know about it. The mayor knows about it. The Hamilton County Commissioner, everybody knows about it. What you been doing? Where's it at? So, I mean, a very strong part of me feels like unless the city is forced to deal with it, they never will. They'll keep kicking it down the can, and they keep kicking the can down the road and putting other things in front of it, talking about what we can't afford and spending money in ways that we don't really need. And that's what they've been doing. Stop me when I'm wrong. That's just how I feel about it. I mean, that's just real. We can talk a whole bunch of ish, or we can do a whole bunch of ish. And when it comes to affordable housing, too many people have been talking a whole bunch of ish and ain't been doing a damn thing. Ain't been doing a damn thing at all. And even some of these mayoral candidates talking about, so what's your alternative? Well, we should do this and we should do that. Okay, sounds real good, but it don't sound as good as $50 million dedicated to affordable housing every year. It don't sound nowhere near close to that. And all this talk about they don't have the money, I don't believe it. I don't believe it one bit. What I believe is that humans find the time and money to do what they really want to do. That's what I see. Cincinnati, City Hall, when it's something they really care about, they will come up with magic. See the FC Cincinnati Stadium. They will come up with magic and all kind of new creative ways to look at numbers and all kind of revenue streams. Well, damn it, do the same thing when it comes to affordable housing. Make it happen. I kind of feel that way. Can you tell? Am I alone in this? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of smart, intelligent people that can feel me on that one. Because they can just look at it like, yeah, okay. Kick the can down the road. Just keep on kicking it. It's the truth. It is the truth, yo. We just kick this can down the road, keep on kicking it down the road, keep on kicking down the road. Okay, so I told you we got a brand new podcast coming to CDM. Very pleased to be working with this individual. And this is a person who had a long time connection with Cincinnati. I can see they're backstage, although maybe having some issues with the connection. So either or, if we can't get them on Zoom, then we can do a straight phone call. That'll suffice. But I just want to make sure that we introduce the new show to the audience so people know what's happening and where to go and where to hear it and what to expect and things like that. So I can see that they're backstage right now, but having some issues with the cam. So if you can hear me, listen, we ain't got to, if it ain't working with the Zoom, we'll make that work. We'll get that together. You can always call in at 513-873-7134. You can always do it that way. So we'll wait for that. We got a couple of minutes here, and I got time. And then again, coming up at 9 a.m., scheduled to speak with Gavi Beckstrup, just to get a sense of who he is. I think, other than David Mann, because David Mann doesn't want to talk with us, he's decided to take a different strategy, and it might work. It'll be very, very interesting to see these different strategies and who exactly moves forward. I mean, just from a political science standpoint, it'll be fascinating to see how that works. But other than that, we've talked to all the mayoral candidates. We talked to AvTab. We talked to CISO. We talked with Rafael. We talked to pretty much everybody. But Gavi, Herman the Jolie ain't serious about it, so I don't want to waste my time. He ain't serious about it, Mayor, so I can't waste my time on that. You can't do a virtual event with the NAACP. You're not doing it. Why should I waste my time with it? Because he ain't really serious. All right, so looks like they're calling in. So that works too. We can call in. All right, so let me go straight to the phones and say good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Edna. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Great to be with you today.
Yeah, thanks for making some time. I can see you backstage as well. Edna Howe Parrish, everybody. I can see you backstage as well. I see that's just not working. We'll work on that, but I'm glad you called in nonetheless. How was the weekend?
That's technology.
Yeah,
great weekend. Great weekend, yes.
Great to hear. So let everybody know, I'm sure there's some people in the audience who may not remember you, but you're bringing Straight Talk back. And I'm very, very pleased to be working with you with CDM. And just kind of let people know who you are and, your connection to Cincinnati and some of the work that you've done.
Absolutely. I hosted Straight Talk Live on the Wiz radio station and on the Buzz for over 12 years. And Straight Talk Live was a community connection and wonderful opportunity to reach out, meet people, bring the issues to the people, bring a lot of new people into Cincinnati, bring old people on. It gave all of our listeners a chance to be on the radio. And I think it was one of the special things that we had, giving us the opportunity to learn about business, learn about community, learn about politics. And so I moved out of town, went to Atlanta, Cleveland, lived in Texas and Oklahoma, all over, and did radio in those cities as well. Once I came back to Cincinnati I believe it was in 2014, I looked for an opportunity to be in radio, but as you know, at that time, things dried up. So I started working at a school system. But the more I would meet people and see them, they would say, I know that voice. I know your face. Why aren't you on the radio? And so, I just thought like it's time to get back into radio. So since we're doing podcasting and a lot of different things independently, like you're doing as an independent Black man, bringing communications to Cincinnati again, I thought, well, let's give it an opportunity. And so you and I connected. And so here we are bringing Straight Talk Live, an iconic radio show back to the people and doing it in podcast form.
Oh, yeah, I'm super excited. And you can't say that word enough. For folks who don't know, when she says iconic, she means iconic. Everybody listen to Straight Talk Live every Sunday, including me. And you just got a sense of what was happening in the community. And then your voice and then your style was just so distinctive. So I'm super excited that you're bringing it back and super privileged to be working with you on this project. So
I'm excited too. I'm excited because I worked in the school system for the last 4 years in Cincinnati, and I would meet parents and people would come in, and once they found out or listened to my voice, they would say, I know you. And they would tell their children who they were. Well, then these are children of the parents who I knew. And so Straight Talk Live is for all generations, whether you're millennial, whether you're, any of the other generations. It's for everybody. So don't feel like shoppers, your listeners out there, you're welcome. It's for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. And so tell people when the first show will be and, what day and what time they can actually watch you. Because we're going to live stream it. So it'll be different than the old Straight Talk because that was just audio. This will be video and audio so people can actually see you and your guests and interact with you in a different way.
Absolutely. You'll be able to see me talk with my hands because that's just what I do. My mouth and my hands are always active. We kick off on Mother's Day. That's May the 9th coming up this Sunday. And Sunday morning, 10 a.m. until 11, start out with the first hour. But I think we're going to need some more time, Nate. I'm begging for that more time, but we're going to start out with 1 hour. So our first show is Mother's Day, Done All the Time. Is the title of the book by Cincinnati author G. Akila Salam. A mother's challenge to the judicial system. Now, we know about the judicial system, our Black young men and young ladies involved, but her book is called Done All the Time. Why did she title it that? It is the use of quid pro quo, a Latin term meaning something for something. You tell me something, I'll tell you something. But her son refused to tell And so he got almost 18 years in prison. And when she talked to the attorney and the prosecutors, they say, well, quid pro quo, something for something is done all the time, she said. And that's something that really, really upset Akila. So her book is going to be really, really good information for parents to learn. If you got a kid in the judicial system, this is going to be good for you. We start out on the 16th of May. The question is how to stay alive during a traffic stop. Now, how many times do we have to ask that, Nate?
Too many.
How many times? How to stay alive during a traffic stop? We talked with the former Alabama state trooper who was going to talk about how to be strategic to stay alive. Isn't that something?
It's a damn shame. But
on the 23rd, yes, the 23rd of May, we have a guest called A Portrait of Three Women in Turmoil. Why is death the breaker for pain and drug addiction? Love in black and white. Okay, we know what that's about. Love addiction. Okay, take the challenge, as you said, Steve Harvey. Love addiction, but this is drugs. Addicted to love. Your first experience, intense pleasure, satisfaction, euphoria, and pain. I like that one. And on the 30th of May, we have freedom and women stepping off broken glass. Okay, you know, we busting through that glass ceiling, and that glass is breaking all over the floor. So we got to learn how to step off onto the floor with that broken glass. Our guest will be Dr. Julianne Malvo. Many of us remember her, an economist, an author, social political commentator. So our guest list is going to be just chock full of good information, good people, and some fun stuff too. So it's for all generations, and you're invited to join us every Sunday morning live on Facebook Live, and then Nate will give us all the details about the other locations where podcasts can be listened to 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. And I am super excited to be back on the air, Nate.
Yeah, I'm just hearing you talk about it. I'm getting excited too. As a talker, because you spent many years as a talker, what's it been like not having that microphone, not having that outlet with so many things that have been happening over the years?
Well, you know, just because I wasn't on the air, it didn't mean that I didn't listen to other talk shows. It didn't mean that I didn't read. It didn't mean that I wasn't writing and connecting with people. It was really hard sometimes, you know, hearing the cases of, you know, our brothers and sisters being murdered in the streets, our presidential elections. And I would listen to the radio and I'd say, tell them about this, tell them about that. And I could just tell then that some of our people that were on air were not really reading. They weren't even reading the newspaper or on the internet because of many obvious things that were left out. And so it was really hard. And I did ask and inquired about getting on the air, but just wasn't available. Only so many talk shows, only so many talk hosts in the city of Cincinnati and the tri-state area. And I wasn't willing to move again. I had lived in a number of cities, so my information just kept going into my brain, and it was overdraft in my brain. And I wanted to get that out. So that's when I started listening and thinking about doing a podcast. And it wasn't just that easy getting on the radio and saying, oh, I've got information I can give you. You know, you have to be able to do a lot of programming, a lot of information. So I found you and found the outlet. And so here I am. I'm so glad to be back.
I'm glad you're back too, and super excited. Looking forward to it, Edna. Well, listen, thank you for your time this morning. I really appreciate you. Were you going to say something else?
No, I was just going to say I'm just excited. So we'll let everybody know, and I'll be standing by and ready to go on the air. And people will be able to call in and have conversations about the things that we're talking about as well. And if you want me to get more than 1 hour, you got to listen and you got to let Nate know so we can get that extended.
Absolutely. I can see it on the horizon. Edna, thank you so much for your time this morning. Super excited to be working with you. Looking forward to it. Again, the first show is Mother's Day. Edna Howe, Straight Talk Live is back. And I know that you're going to reconnect with your fans and make some new fans as well.
Absolutely. And I do want to say that, you know, I came to Cincinnati in 1986. And prior to that, I was from Dayton, Ohio. And so I had worked at WGAO Radio, another iconic, the first urban FM radio station in the nation. I worked there for 6 or 7 years and then came to Cincinnati and had worked in a lot of the stations in Cincinnati. And then when I left, I went to Atlanta radio there, V103, WAOK. I went to Texas, worked in radio, Oklahoma, Michigan radio. And so I'm not a newbie. I'm right here for you, all generations for Straight Talk Live.
I'm curious though. I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, I get it. But what happened? Why did you stop doing Straight Talk Live? I don't think I ever knew that story.
Well, actually, in 1999, I got married, and so the station was going in a unique direction, and we created the Buzz Talk Show, and so I was doing that. And so, being married, you make that commitment to follow your husband. So, he was working in ministry, and so we moved to Atlanta, and that's why I left. Well, actually, I went to WAKW, the Christian station. So I went there first, and
Okay.
I went to the FM station there, and then I went to Atlanta. Following him, we went to, like I said, to Texas and Oklahoma, Michigan, Illinois, working in ministry. And so, but while I was there, blessed to be able to still be able to be a talk host. So here I am again.
Okay. Okay. We'll come full circle. I never knew the story. Okay. Well, Edna, thank you so much
Yeah,
for your time. And you already
thank
know
you, thank you.
I'll be listening. But I'm sure I can see the comments from people. People are they remember you. They're excited, saying welcome back, and looking forward to it.
Thank you to all of your Chopper family out there.
All right. Hey, Edna, take it easy. It's Edna Howell Parrish, everybody. Straight Talk Live is coming back. You can check it out here on CDM. She's going to be live streaming it. So it'll be a little bit something different. And listen, I'm from Cincinnati. Part of the reason that, I was so drawn to talk radio was listening to Edna on Straight Talk Live. I used to listen to it, on the Wiz. And then y'all already know the story. My first gig, the first commercial radio show I ever did was Straight Talk Live. And that was years after Edna left. They had a carousel of different hosts, but nobody ever wanted to commit to it. And then the opportunity was presented to me. I was shook. I'll be honest with you. I think it was Jerry Tolliver and Terry Thomas. Shout out to both of them. I reached out to Jerry Tolliver because, like I said, I knew she worked with Carmine Guzman, who was my favorite talk show host of all time. Carmine Guzman was a beast. He was the truth. And I was just, anybody that worked with him, I wanted to work with them. That's what drew me to work with Jerry Tolliver. The buzz was secondary, to be honest with you. I wanted to work with, because I thought that she would understand my style, which she did. She understood it. So I reached out to her old school way and just, when you're trying to get on, you'll do whatever it takes. I'm going to the picnics. I'm going, whatever the buzz was doing, I was there for free, right? Whatever I got to do to get on is what I was willing to do. I was committed. And some openings opened up. They gave me a shot. I was nervous as hell. I'm like, who am I to be on the radio talking about anything? Nervous as hell, but everybody's nervous. Everybody is afraid or whatever. You do it anyway. You work through the nerves. See, the belief is a lot of people look at people that do things and they think, oh, they're nervous. They're not. Everybody's nervous. Right. The difference is that some people work through the nerves and do it anyway. And that's what I did. And for me, when I get nervous, I over prepare. And then when I feel like I'm prepared, it deals with my nerves because I know what's going to happen. But how did it work? So Jerry had me sit in for who was it? It was a nighttime show. I can't remember if it was Ken Anderson or it was I forget the brother's name. Neither one of these brothers care too much for me today for whatever reason. Zoe was doing a show. And eventually, the very first gig I got in commercial radio was Straight Talk Live. They were looking for a host. Jerry introduced me to Terry. I never forget it. Went to the radio station. She wanted me. She offered me the gig right there. I'm like, word? She's like, yeah, you start on Sunday. I'm like, what did you say? Sunday? So I went home and started working. Start just putting the work in, being prepared, being over prepared, as much as possible. Next thing I know it, I'm the host of Straight Talk Live. They went on for, I can't remember how long. It went on for a while. And then Edna had her style, but I did my style. They gave me the flexibility to do me. And I did me. I stretched the shit out of it. It was different. It was a little different when Nate took over. But nonetheless, still good. Everybody brings their style to it. I had a lot of fun with it. Had a lot of fun with it. Met a lot of people, man. Had a lot. Just got a chance to learn commercial radio on the air, making mistakes on the air, all that kind of stuff, production on the air. That's how you got to do it. You got to learn. You got to make mistakes. And from then on, the rest was there. They offered me some gigs at the Buzz, which I took, and the rest is, as you say, history. But that's the evolution of it. So it's very interesting that you've got. I think between me and Edna, we were the two longest running talk show hosts who hosted Straight Talk Live. She did it for what she say 14 years. I think I did it for about the same amount of time, maybe a little less, somewhere around there. They had some people like Box and Lincoln and others would sit in before that, but they never really, from what I understood, ever committed to it. But I was like, opportunity? Shit. You ain't got to tell me twice. I'm gonna hold on to this and we're gonna ride this to the wherever we take it. And that's exactly what I did. So it's very interesting how you got this circle of events happening where now we're in a digital age, and the digital age is a leveler in terms of the playing field. And Edna and I have teamed up. So I'm looking forward to it. As you can hear already, she is prepared. She's got a list of guests already set up for you. And I know you're going to like it because she is a true, and you can hear it in her voice, a consummate professional. And I'll say it again to all my patrons, to folks out there, I'm 100% committed to this. I ain't going nowhere. We grow every single day. Watch us. Keep watching. Who knows where we'll be in a year? You never know. This is how great things start. They start just like this. They start just like this. You never know where we might be in a year. We might be, who knows? I can't even call it. You can't even see it. But I'm 100% committed to this and amplifying Black voices in the greater Cincinnati area and beyond. I'll say it again. If you know someone who's interested in podcasting or live streaming, hit me with a DM. Hit me with a DM. Maybe we can work together and do something fantastic. Who knows? And again, it doesn't have to be politics. It doesn't have to be straight, political issues, as are a lot of our live streams. There's a lot of creative people out there. I'm working with folks that got ideas that are completely different that I think will be very entertaining to the audience. And it's in various stages of development. You'll hear about it really, really soon. So I want to say it again. I am a man of my word. I'm doing exactly what I said that I was going to do. And I ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere till the job is done. And we are going to do this together 100%. We doing this together. You might not be a talk show host, but you watch this show, you watch the other shows, you share the shows, you interact. That is huge. That is huge. And your support is most definitely needed as we take our next steps into the future. So keep watching. Edna said that, she found it difficult. I wouldn't be surprised that some people reach out to her now that she is working with us. I know how this business is. I know how these people in the city are. I already know. And whatever happens, happens. But I'll say it again. I'm doing exactly what I told you I was going to do. I don't give a damn who's on the team. I'm on the team. I'm going to be the guiding force in this until we get to where we're trying to get to. We deserve independent media, locally Black owned and Black focused media. We deserve that, and you have it. And we will continue to grow every single day, every single week. I don't give a damn about the mistakes and the hiccups. I don't care about none of that. All I see is the finish line. All I see is the vision. Now, if that's something you can get down with, then come on and get down with us. Hit me with a DM. We can work together. You know what I'm saying? As you can see, I have endless energy. I ain't going nowhere. Nowhere until the job is done. And we get closer every single day. Mark my words. Watch what I'm telling you. We're going to get there together. You're going to be like, damn, Nate, this is awesome. Okay, you heard us. So that's Edna Howe and Parrish, and her first show will be this Sunday. All right. All right. So as I said, we are a media platform. I don't do personal political endorsements. I'm going to give you a strong opinion about everything, but I don't do endorsements because this is a media platform, and I offer space for whomever. As long as you ain't somebody, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or charter right, it makes no difference to me. The only difference is if you somebody who I believe has a campaign of hate and or you against us, I don't want your money. I don't want to work with you. Hell no. Other than that, I don't have to agree with your politics. I don't have to necessarily like you. This is business, so this is a media platform. These are not personal endorsements, but I want to make sure that we do what we're supposed to do on our end. So I want to play this campaign clip for you, and we'll take a small break and come right back to the phones. As I said, coming up at the top of the hour, we have a mayoral candidate, Gavi Beckstrup, who is scheduled to join us, and we'll talk to him and learn more about his campaign. Some of you might have seen him; he was on with Donnie on Friday. That is great. We need as many conversations as possible, but he's going to be here with us today at 9 a.m. So maybe you saw her conversation. Hopefully you did. It was great conversation she had with Avtab, Cecil, and also Gavi as well. But we'll talk with them at 9 a.m. this morning. All right, so we'll take a quick break and come right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, I'm Mr. Same Old Same Old. I'm running for mayor.
Hold up. Haven't you run for a bunch of offices always promising change but doing nothing?
Yeah, but
nothing. I'm not voting for the same old politicians to clean up City Hall and create change. We need to vote Prophet for mayor. He will be bold, courageous, fair, and stop corruption at City Hall. I'm voting for Prophet. Prophet for people.
I'm Raphael Prophet, and I'm asking for your vote, as I will do what is right, what is just, and what is fair. Paid for by Prophet for Mayor, Dwight Crawford, Treasurer.
hello, I'm Mr. Same Old Same Old. I'm running for mayor.
Hold up. Haven't you run for a bunch of offices always promising change but doing nothing?
Yeah, but
nothing. I'm not voting for the same old politicians to clean up City Hall and create change. We need to vote Prophet for mayor. He will be bold, courageous, fair, and stop corruption at City Hall. I'm voting for Prophet. Prophet for people.
I'm Raphael Prophet, and I'm asking for your vote, as I will do what is right, what is just, and what is fair. Paid for by Prophet for Mayor, Dwight Crawford, Treasurer.
Living for weekends, wishing I could take a break from this world. Running on a hamster wheel, but searching for something I can't feel. I just wanna be a lost girl and fly. Take a breath, feel my wings spread, levitate above the ground and make eye contact with clouds. Now I'm rising, I'm soaring above it all. I just wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free. I wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free. Finally. I always daydreaming, never imagined I'd lose my spark. Living in this crazy time, putting back the pieces of my mind. I know how to run from the dark and fly. Take a breath, feel my wings spread, levitate into the clouds. I'm so high above the ground. I'm rising, I'm soaring above it all. I just wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free. I wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free. Finally. High to a bird. I'm rising, I'm soaring above it all. I just wanna be free.
All right, good morning, everybody. Just a quick break. Welcome back. 513-873-7134. Yeah, maybe it's over 2 minutes, maybe like 2.5 minutes, just a little bit. We all want to be free, right? Exactly. Good morning to you. All right, 513-873-7134. That is my number. Now, when we kicked off the show, we were talking about Kamala Harris. She says America's not racist. I want to get your thoughts about it. And I gave you my thoughts that it's all politics. I mean, that's a good picture of her. She look good right there, sis. Look good. Okay, to Chucks. You got the Chucks on too? Now, you know, she's going to have to deal with a lot of hate. There is a Republican congressman who has been getting critiqued because he implied that she was giving sexual favors. And that's the reason why Kamala Harris has risen to the position of vice president. He actually strongly implied that, you know, she was giving fellatio, right? Not to be crude, but that's what he implied. White dude. And he was actually reprimanded by members of his own party, and he doubled down on it. So look, Kamala gonna have to deal with all kind of hate. And I think that the reason why she made that comment is because maybe she believes that way. From her perspective, think about it. You know, she's a biracial woman, right? She's married to a white dude. She has been elected the first black woman, right? The first woman of color to be the vice president, right? First 100 days. She understands how the Republican media echo chamber works. So she was playing a political game. That's why she said that. She went on Good Morning America last week and said she agrees with Uncle Tim, Tim Scott, that is, and in his assessment that America is not racist. I disagree with them. I think that if you want to be real about it, that there's no way you can say America is not racist. And there's only one, we don't even have to talk about all the deep levels in the criminal justice system and the unequal treatment of black folk. All we got to talk about reparations. They ain't cut the check yet. And until you cut the check, that means you ain't remorseful as a nation. And that means that it's the racist core of America that's preventing the checks from coming through. I mean, saying I'm sorry ain't enough when you do certain people wrong. Like, it ain't enough to just say I'm sorry and acknowledge the past. That ain't enough. You got to give up something. There's got to be some retribution. You know what I'm saying? And we's owed that. And until we get it, America's racist. Period. Stop right there. Tell me why the checks ain't been cut. Oh, well, we don't know who gets the checks and yabba dabba, get the hell out of here. You know, here's what I see. You know, when COVID hit, they came up with trillions of dollars, just like that. Trillions. They're giving out PPP loan money. Everybody, you want PPP? You get PPP loan. You get PPP. It's like Oprah. You get a car. You get PPP. People making up businesses, as we know, allegedly, even some Cincinnati people. So miss me with all this. We don't know who's this. Listen, this country allegedly put somebody on the moon. We have man-made technology that's circling and actually on the surface of Mars. We's can figure it out. I don't want to hear all this. We don't know how to do it and it's too complicated. Enough of that nonsense. This country does and this government does what it wants to do when it wants to do it. That's what I've seen. 9/11 happens. Well, we got to get some get back. Do we go after bin Laden? No, let's go to Iraq. Right? This country does what it wants to do when it gets ready to. That same thing with the city. I don't want to hear all this nonsense about we can't afford it. We ain't going to be able to fund. I don't want to hear it. Because what I've seen in my adult lifetime is that this country, this city, when they want to do something, they find the money. Somehow they figure it out and the wizards of Hogwarts show up and start doing spells and all of a sudden we found it. So I don't want to hear that when it comes to affordable housing, just like I don't want to hear it when it comes to reparations. Get it, make it happen, Captain. Make it happen like we do everything else when the powers that be want to make it happen. But let's go to the phones. I could go on for days and days, and I will. But let's go to the phones. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Ivy. This is your West Side Connection. Your only Black Not Democrat, Drop Squad 52. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How was your weekend, Drop?
Oh, it's great, man. I'm out here in Arizona with my daughter, grandson. helping out a little bit.
Okay.
And
Granddad.
yeah, so yeah, so anyway, I'm listening to your show, right? Because I woke up like 5:30, and I see your artwork for this episode, and Mr. Ivy, I just start laughing because not only was it Kamala Harris or Kamala, I'm Black Y'all Harris, who agreed with Tim Scott. Also, James Clyburn, the man who rescued Sleepy Joe and gave us the 46th president of the United States. He also said it on the Sunday shows. But, Mr. Ivy, unfortunately, a lot of the Negro whisperers and race hustlers and poverty pimps, they thought they had it all teed up to go after the one black Republican in the United States Senate and the one black man who is leading the Republican Party to get criminal justice reform done. Now, see, the Democrats thought that they could just destroy Tim Scott and take away his ability to have a bipartisan criminal justice reform legislation. But it backfired because, like you said, over the weekend, Kamala, I'm Black Y'all Harris, agreed with Tim Scott, as well as James Clyburn, and probably a whole bunch of other desperate Democrats. And shout out to the All-Middle Broadway Flow over on the Spreaker Chop Shop. Great comment. You should read it, Mr. Ivy. But it's funny. Over the weekend on Twitter, you know I'm poking the bear. Where's Politically Petty? Where's Glenn calling all Negro whisperers? Because, Mr. Ivy, as Saturday and then Sunday went on, it's just like they couldn't. Huh? What's that?
I'm sorry, I was talking with the wifey for a second.
Oh, okay. Don't forget to ask Junior who his favorite chopper is, because I know I'm number one on the charts. but Mr. Ivy, I just wanted to get that
he
in.
He comes in here, I ask him live on the air real quick. I don't think he's going to be able to answer. Hey, son, come in for a second.
Okay. You never know. You never know, Mr. Ivy. How many times has your son surprised you?
Come in, son. Come
I don't care.
All right. Come in. Come to the microphone. Somebody want to ask you a question. Who is your favorite chopper? He's like, what?
Drop Squad 52? Say it, Junior. Drop Squad.
I told you. He was like, what? He don't know. He's not that deep into it. That's my boy, though.
But I guarantee you, Mr. Ivy, because like you was just telling your story, how you came up in the commercial radio game, your son, because you know the fruit don't fall far from the tree, he's gonna be listening to some of these tapes.
Oh, he will.
From yes, and I guarantee you know who's gonna stand out. You already know, but I ain't tooting my own horn, Mr. Ivy. But I appreciate your commentary on this whole issue, and I'm gonna follow it throughout the week. I'll be dropping another podcast because I've been poking the bear, and I don't know what's going on with Glenn. Maybe he's working with you, but my poking and prodding ain't working this time, Mr. Ivy. All the other times when Glenn fell off, I got on the show poking and prodding, and he came up with a podcast. But he ain't had nothing since April 14th, and I like him.
He'll be back.
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm thinking I'm losing my touch, Mr. Ivy, because he ain't budging. I mean, he can't even come up with a 5-10 minute response. But that's all right. At least he ain't blocked me again on Twitter. But
my son
it's all
just
good,
said, Dad,
Mr.
I don't know what he's talking about. That's what he just said.
One day, Junior, one day. But anyway, Mr. Ivy, that's all I got. But it's just funny how all this stuff is going down with the Democrats and our supposedly future president, the 47th president, Kamala, I'm Black Y'all Harris. And her comments just compounded her political future as far as solidifying the black vote, because they thought that they could remake her image by making her vice president and putting her in certain positions so she can kind of like codify the black people who were against her during the primaries. But after this incident, and because we all know how politicians are, Mr. Ivy, she's going to come back and say, oh, I didn't mean it like that. Oh, I need to walk back this statement. But I think it's too late because James Clyburn said it. And we already know how the first black president, how he feels. So we ain't even going to go down that road. But that's all I got, Mr. Ivy. I appreciate your show. I'm out here in Arizona listening to the Nathan Ivy show. And you keep doing your thing, brother, because you are blowing up. Drop Squad 52. Black, not Democrat. It's not how you start. It's how you finish. So get started and finish strong. Peace.
I like it. He added, man, listen. Drop is my dude. He is hilarious. And he's on point. That black not Democrat might jump off. I'm gonna go ahead and say it is gonna jump off. And he's 100% right. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So get started and finish strong. I love that, bro. I love that. That's my motto. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. I keep telling folks, one day real soon. But listen, as I announced earlier, we have Gabby Beckstrup scheduled to be on the show today at 9 a.m. He's backstage, so I'm going to welcome him to the show, and we'll get more information about his campaign and about him. Hey, Gabby, good morning. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Yes, sir. Yes. Well, you didn't actually see me. Well, you're talking about the NAACP. Right.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Also, I knew you were backstage last week.
Backstage with
a few weeks ago.
Donnie.
Yeah. That was great.
How many virtual events have you done during this mayoral campaign season?
We did, I think, 24 virtual forums. That did not include things like last week or this. And then other Zoom meetings that our campaign did, I mean, at least a dozen. We're talking like 50 different.
Wow.
Every day there's something virtual. It's weird, but it's also great, right? Because I think, the silver lining here is that more people had access to be engaged than I think they would have otherwise, right?
Right. And it's hard to say no because you're so accessible now. Like you can just be at home, right?
Yeah, there is that. It's good and bad. Being accessible and being able to do all of them is great. We have these community councils here in Cincinnati, as you know. There's 52 neighborhoods, and there have been a few evenings in which I've been on 3 community councils between 6:30 and 8 p.m. on the same night, and that's tiring.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You tell your spiel, you get asked all these questions, and you're like, "Well, I got to jump," and you jump onto the next one. And you're like, "Where am I?" It's very much like the being on tour, I think, where you're like, "Hello, Chicago,"
So you've had all of these virtual events. I'm sure you've been asked every question at least 15, if not 20 different times by different folks, right? My question is, what have you not been asked that you're surprised that people really haven't touched, either about you, your background, or your campaign?
Ooh, that's tricky. You're right. We've been asked a lot of the questions the same way over and over and over again. And that gets, it's like, let's dig in a little bit more. Actually, I think I sent you an email about this. You were the first moderator of one of our Zoom forums that actually followed up on a question and asked a little bit more. And I really appreciate that. This was the question around taking money from developers, which everybody dances around, and you followed up and pushed on it. And we haven't had enough of that. I call them forums because we haven't actually had a debate. We haven't had any time in which we get to follow up beyond the planted, 2-point, talking points and actually dig in and try and figure it out. As far as me, it's been interesting. I've been running unquestionably an underdog race this entire time. I think the media, not to discredit them, but the media really discounted me this entire time. And we got out there and ran a very different race than my opponents. We have 3 well-known names in this race that are all running entirely on name ID. And part of the reason I got in this race is because when each of these guys announced, they announced the same way. They said, my name and it's my turn to be mayor. And none of them talked about the actual big challenges in the city, or they blamed them all on the pandemic. So they didn't, they didn't, focus on the systemic racism in the city. They didn't focus on the systemic inequality, the poverty, or how we're going to work on any of these things and solve any of these things. And so that's why I got in this race, is that somebody need to start talking about these real issues and have real policies to try and dig into them. So, yeah.
Speaking of which, when did you get into the race? Because I'm curious. I know there's some of the candidates who got in after it was pretty clear that PG Sinfield was no longer a viable mayoral candidate. When did you make that decision? Did you make a decision before that, or was it after you realized that PG may not be in the running?
Yeah.
Did that have any impact on your decision?
Oh, certainly. I was not planning on running for mayor. That was not in my list of things to do. And when PG got indicted in November, I think it was less about PG getting indicted and more about the fact that you'd had now a third of city council getting removed for the same problem, right? Regardless of what you think of their independent legal cases, this problem that just developer money is so tied up in everything the city does. And it's a real problem, right? Because you see, I mean, it's not new. It's the history of the city. I'm getting a note here. Ivy, can you hear me okay? Am I really quiet?
I hear you fine. I can turn you up just a little bit, but I hear you just fine.
Okay. Just making sure. There seemed to be some concern that I wasn't.
Still there?
Yeah, still here.
Yeah, you kind of having some issues now. Hear a little static here or there. But before that, it sounded good.
Am I good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, there we go. All right, apologies for that. So I don't know what I was saying. Oh, yeah, when did I get in this race? So I was not planning on running. And then I saw just this continued challenge of the city not being able to solve real problems and being just all the oxygen in the room being sucked out from just this, not just the scandals, but all the squabbling. You know, I'm a Democrat and people ask me that a lot. And I say, well, you know, it is supposed to be a nonpartisan office in the mayor, but we have a Democratic mayor who's constantly squabbling with Democratic members of council, right? So it's not really, our problem here in Cincinnati is not partisan. It's one of focus and priorities. So I started looking at getting in the race in December. And it was interesting. A lot of people told me not to get in because I wouldn't be able to beat this person or that person who might get in. And all the names they raised were people who have been in politics for decades and decades and decades. And I kept responding the same way, which was, okay, but are they going to be a good mayor? Are they the mayor we need? Are they the change we need to change the trajectory of Cincinnati after, you know, decades of kind of going the same direction? And I didn't feel that they were. And I looked at the race, and everybody that, you know that 25 people pulled petitions to get on the ballot, and, you know, half a dozen other were in the newspaper for, you know, potentially running. And I looked at all of them, said they all fit the same bill. They're all people who have run for one office and another office and another office and another office. None of them had private sector experience of actually building jobs and creating living wages. None of them had the level of policy experience I had working with Gabby Giffords of actually getting things done and creating policy and looking at its impacts on people. And I didn't feel like any of them had the type of leadership experience I've built over my career to actually change culture and change direction. So I started looking at December, and I got an upswell of just grassroots support. 35 people helped me. None of them political operatives, none of them, you know, all just volunteers that wanted to see me on the ballot, helped me get 1,000 signatures in 3 weeks. We got on the ballot a month before the big name candidates did, and we went from there.
You talked about creating policy. Is that something that you have experience with, creating policy?
Yeah, so I spent 3 years as a policy advisor for Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. So I was in the U.S. House, and I wrote all of her major legislation. And we got bills passed in a Democratic House, and we got bills passed in a Republican-controlled House. That's a big deal. You know, the way we solve the big problems is by bringing people to the table. And there's a lot of conversation about the role of the mayor in Cincinnati, and this issue around whether, you know, is the mayor supposed to get involved in developer deals and all these sorts of things. The real thing a mayor is supposed to do is set a vision for an equitably growing city, create values for how we do that, which we don't see. I mean, you see this problem with 3CDC. People complain about 3CDC, but 3CDC did exactly what it was told to do. What the problem was that City Hall didn't say, hey, while we're doing this development, we got to make sure we're not displacing people like we've been doing for decades, right? And that's a failure of City Hall, and that's a failure of leadership from setting the right values and priorities. So, for me, as I look at the mayor's role, I look at it as setting the vision for the city of equitable growth, but also of being able to bring everyone to the table. When I worked for Gabby, she was one of 435 members of Congress. So her vote, I can't tell you a single time her vote changed the outcome of legislation on the House floor. But leading on issues did, and bringing people together, the power to convene people. The mayor has the strongest power in this entire tri-state region to bring everybody to the table to solve a problem. And that's what I really want to see happen. So yeah, on policy, with Gabby, I wrote bipartisan legislation. I wrote the NASA reauthorization that changed the future of human space flight. I know this has nothing to do with Cincinnati, but it was a big deal because we had to bring industry in, we had to bring the nonprofit and the citizen world in, and the government agencies to figure out how we were going to retire the shuttle and move over to kind of what SpaceX is doing. I also wrote a lot of legislation around energy and environmental issues. We wrote the Solar Technology Roadmap Act, which brought down the cost of solar panels by 2/3. We wrote legislation that curbed the Department of Defense's energy consumption. They're the biggest consumer on the planet. Again, these aren't necessarily Cincinnati issues, but the point is get those things done and pass them in a split Congress required bringing people together and focusing on the issues. And I feel like too often we have a city hall that's just focused on the politics and focused on their own political careers. I mean, we have so many people that clearly spend their entire time in office thinking about the next race they're going to run. And I'm running for mayor because as somebody with policy experience and executive leadership experience, I think I'd be a good mayor. I think I could do good for our city, not because I want to run for Senate. And I think Cincinnati deserves somebody who's focused on leading Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. I think that Black Cincinnati deserves someone who's actually focused on Black Cincinnati's issues. And as you said, you got policy experience. It's a little bit different as the mayor, but still, I think that, we have to do things with intentionality. And I think that not everybody arrived to where we are with the same path. And that's clear when it comes to Black Cincinnati that has unique challenges that it's dealing with. So what would be your vision for Black Cincinnati? We're talking about 41, 42% of the city. And again, I'm a big believer that a rising tide lifts all boats. I think that until we deal with the challenges that are specifically in front of Black Cincinnatians, this city's never going to be what we all want it to be. So what is your vision? And be as specific as you can be for Black Cincinnati.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. The reality is that we have a city that people talk about the pandemic all the time, but before the pandemic, we had a real challenge in the city, right? Black Cincinnatians were making 66 cents on dollar compared to white Cincinnatians. And how are you going to address that? It's not by just saying, oh, we need to recover from the pandemic, because that sounds like all we need to do is get back where we were. That's wrong. We need to do a hell of a lot more in Cincinnati to lift everybody up. And that's not how we've been doing things. And there's a whole bunch of policies we can talk about that hurt Black Cincinnati. So you challenged me on this. You challenged everybody on this on our last forum. And if you go to my website and go to votegabi.com, there's a Cincinnati recovery plan. And all of those issues are about lifting everybody up. And I'll talk about a few of them. We have 7 big ideas for the city. One of them is about how we encourage Black entrepreneurship. So I am an entrepreneur. I've built multiple businesses. But more than the businesses I've built, I've worked with dozens and dozens of other small business owners on helping them build their businesses, including a lot of Black entrepreneurs. And mostly I do that just because I always figure it was a really, really hard path for me. And if I can help other people, that's awesome, right? And but the reality is we often act as if everybody has the same starting point, and they don't. So Black small-owned businesses, Black-owned small businesses shuttered at twice the rate of white-owned small businesses in this pandemic. And the reason for that is largely because of access to capital. Your ability to start a business is largely dependent on how much money you have access to, whether in your own bank account or your friends. And when you have a very segregated city, the access to capital is very different. So one of the things that we put out for this, one of our plans, is to take money from the stimulus and create a minority seed fund, which would mean you take about $5 million from the stimulus And then you use that to leverage, to bring in more private dollars to invest in Black business owners. And I'm not just talking about the venture-backed stuff I've done. I'm talking about restaurants. I'm talking about barbershops. I'm talking about just regular stores, so you get them back online. But being intentional about the fact that we have a difference in access to capital, which means that, depending on where you're coming from, you have a very different ability to start a business. Another thing is our skills bank. So we want to create a fund that's about investing in workers, because the reality is I am a business owner. I do come from that background, but I realize that what Cincinnati needs, what every business needs, is access to great talent that can do great work. So if we want to raise wages in Cincinnati, and by the way, we have an affordability crisis in Cincinnati. People talk about rents, people talk about housing prices, and they should. But the real issue is that those things are outpacing wages. So we need to invest in people to earn higher wages. So we have this idea of a skills bank. It's not my idea. I like borrowing great ideas from other cities. And you use that to invest in people to get certifications, to get degrees. But the big thing is you have to really make sure it works. So paying for somebody's tuition isn't good enough. You need to pay for their cost of living so that they can actually be focused on getting the degrees they need. And I'm not just talking about four-year degrees. I'm talking about certifications, et cetera. The cool thing about a skills bank is that it's designed to be evergreen, that if you go from making $30,000 a year to $45,000 a year, you pay some of that back over time into the bank so that it then pays for the next generation. These are ideas that not just, like, my whole thing with the stimulus is it can't just be about plugging holes today. It's got to be about investing in a very different Cincinnati, and one in which everybody's doing well. I can go on, Nathan.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we can get into the weeds of it, but there's some good questions here. I want to go to the audience. Somebody wants to know, and again, this isn't like to do any kind of gotcha. It's just what we were talking about earlier with Kamala. But somebody wants to know, do you think that America is racist?
Yes. I mean, without question. I mean, it's that simple. Of course, America's racist. And this is what I think drives me nuts about places like Cincinnati, where we act like we don't do redlining anymore. We pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, well, we took those policies off the books. Look, yesterday I was in Bond Hill and I knocked on 151 doors and talked to a lot of people. And it's predominantly Black neighborhood. I think it's like 95% Black. And that neighborhood was created by redlining. It was created by policies from the government and from the banks that pushed people out of neighborhoods and pushed them into one neighborhood. And we didn't stop there. The thing is, we had all these redlining stuff where we were making it impossible for Black people to buy houses in different neighborhoods. But then we also completely divested from the neighborhoods that we pushed Black people into, right? We didn't send good bus service there. We divested from their businesses. We divested from their grocery stores. So we left people at a complete disadvantage. And now we say, well, we don't do redlining anymore. But we haven't fixed that problem. In the 50s and 60s, we ran a highway through a Black neighborhood and displaced tens of thousands of people. And that highway is still there. And we built an entire city based on car ownership, which, I guess I understand how we got there, but the reality is it makes it harder to be poor. I mean, this is a country in which it's very, very hard to be poor, because and this is a city in which that's very true. I've lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've lived in DC, and these are cities in which public transportation is something that everyone participates in. You can be sitting on the metro, and next to you is a guy suffering from homelessness, and on the other side is a guy who's making $3 million as a corporate lobbyist, right? But we're all on the same metro. And in Cincinnati, we view public transportation as something you only do if you can't afford a car, and that hurts our city, because it separates our neighborhoods. It pulls us out of small businesses. When we tore up 220 miles of streetcar, we made it so that we disconnected all of our neighborhoods and we divested from Black business districts. It's why Walnut Hills is still recovering its business district after half a century. So my point is, like, you don't have to use pejorative language to be living in a racist society. You have to look at every policy and how it's designed around, we can't pretend as if today we call everything even and we all have a fair shot. We built a society in which we disadvantaged groups of people, and particularly and especially Black people. And then we continue to divest from social services that give people a chance? So the answer is yes.
So let's talk about housing, because issue 3, I'm sure you've been asked a billion questions about issue 3. So someone's asking the question. I want to make sure we get your answer here. But I see housing in Cincinnati, especially from the Black Cincinnati perspective, as 2 issues. So one is affordable housing, obviously. But the other is, as mayor, what would be your plans to increase Black home ownership, which there's a huge gap in the city? Again, it hurts us. This city will never be what we want it to be as long as there's a huge gap in home ownership between white homes and Black homes.
Yeah.
So how would you address those 2 issues, which of course are intertwined?
They are intertwined, and they're intertwined with a larger issue of affordability writ large in the city. So I always make this point that, and you heard me talk about a little bit already, which is it's not just about housing, right? If you have a low rent unit in a neighborhood that doesn't have jobs, and doesn't have grocery stores, and doesn't have good public transportation, doesn't have a good school, doesn't have parks, it's not affordable. So we have to think about affordability much larger than just rents. And the other issue, as I mentioned, is that rents are going up, but the real issue is wages aren't going up. So we have to think about both sides of that ledger. Okay, so issue 3 is really important to talk about, and it's controversial. And when the important backdrop on this is that council created a trust fund. And if you look at the ordinance, it's very simple. Section 1 says we're creating a affordable housing trust fund. And Section 2 says, and we're going to figure out how to fund it. Now, why anybody was okay with council writing something that says we're creating something, but maybe someday we'll figure out how to fund it is problematic, right? But here's how I think about affordable housing. As somebody who has hired people, built companies, but also as somebody who built a school. We talked about this before, but I was the founding board chair of the Donald and Marion Spencer Center. It's a magnet school in Walnut Hills, and it serves 350 kids from all over the city. And it's really critical because it's a gifted education school. And if you hear gifted education, you think white and elitist, you're not wrong. Gifted education has a long history of being a very white, affluent thing. We built this school intentionally to be a school that served kids from all over the city. And we worked on our inclusion criteria to make sure we were pulling smart kids that needed these services from all over the city, and built a majority minority school that serves gifted kids. And it's a 40% free and reduced lunch school. So it looks like the city of Cincinnati. And that was really intentional. And just, I guess, to pick up on your last point, you have to be intentional about policies if you're going to fix these things. So why I mentioned that is when I think about affordable housing, I think about what I saw as a parent and a board chair of this school, which was when families have access to affordable housing, their kids grow up in a more stable home. And when the kids grow up in a more stable home, there's been lots of research on this, but it's obvious, they do better in school, which means they do better in the workplace, they earn higher wages, and we can break the cycle of poverty, and small businesses can hire them, and it's good for the city because they get higher wages, they pay more wage taxes, everybody wins. So investing in people is critical. And whenever I talk to the business community, I make this point that affordable housing is pro-business. It's that simple. If you're worrying about where you're going to lay your head, if you're worrying about your kids being on the street tonight, then you can't be worried about your job. And that's a real challenge. So issue 3, when it came out, I was quick to make a statement. It's on my Twitter feed. You see a video where I effectively say, a charter amendment is not the right way to solve this problem. The right way to solve this problem is for city council to find a funding stream and get to work. Much like we did the preschool promise. We found a funding stream and we brought in private dollars. We brought in Procter & Gamble. We brought in the philanthropic community so that the entire burden was not on the taxpayer. And we should do the same with the charter amendment. And I called on, with the trust fund rather, I called on council to do anything before the election to prove that you're serious about funding this thing. And they did less than nothing. They not only didn't work on finding a funding stream, they actually wrote illegal language so mischaracterizing the ballot initiative that the Ohio Supreme Court had to throw it out. So that is, when I talk about the squabbling and corruption in City Hall, I'm not just talking about taking money from developers. I'm talking about the fact that instead of 9,500 people in Cincinnati, that's nearly 20 times as many people as needed to sign my petition or any of these other guys to get on the ballot for mayor. 9,500 people in the middle of a pandemic signed this thing and said, solve this problem. And City Hall, instead of working on it, wrote illegal language, right? I mean, this is ridiculous. So I am supporting issue 3. I think that it's become clear that City Hall will not work on this problem. It was like so many other things they do. It was just a feel-good resolution so they can have a press release. They will not work on this problem until they're forced to. Now, I do have problems with the charter amendment. I think that should it pass, we need to, there are amendments we need to make to it. We can make smaller adjustments in November. I think you'll see City Hall very quickly move to do that because they're concerned. Like, I'll give you an example that I don't think is controversial. The way it's written, you can't use federal or I believe even state money to fund the trust fund. And that's silly. If we can get money into the trust fund, we should be happy regardless of where it comes from. So there are some changes we need to make. So there's that. I think beyond that, if it doesn't pass, we need a mayor who's going to prioritize this issue, which we haven't seen. And so if it passes or if it doesn't pass, I'm going to do the same thing, which is work to go bring in money, not just city money, but federal, state money and private and philanthropic money to get this thing done. I love that the charter amendment forces the issue of affordability. What I don't like is that everybody's talking about the trust fund as if that's all it takes to make affordable housing. And it's not true. We need to work on rezoning. We have zoning things that keep us sorts of housing that built Cincinnati. You can't build a business district where you have a business on the bottom and apartments on the top. Like, it's silly. And that makes everything more expensive. Restrictive zoning makes everything more expensive, especially affordable housing, because you can't do high density housing. The other issue that I've been very, very vocal about is tax abatements. Right now, I live in Mount Lookout, and in Mount Lookout, Hyde Park, and these wealthy developed neighborhoods, you can tear down a 100-year-old home and build a McMansion and make everybody else pay your taxes. And that's wrong. The reality is if you can build a $500,000 home, you can pay taxes on a $500,000 home. And the reason I keep harping on this issue is that it's not just that we're giving tax handouts to wealthy people. And I don't blame any of them for taking the tax cuts, right? I mean, if somebody gives you a tax cut, yeah, I get it. You take it. I blame City Hall for not addressing this problem. The Inquirer put out an article, I think nearly $100 million of tax money has gone into 3 wealthy developed neighborhoods. And what that money was supposed to be doing is bringing investment into neighborhoods that weren't seeing it. But here's the thing. When those tax abatements happen, they not only shift the tax burden to everybody else, they also raise housing prices and rents because people end up building bigger, more expensive homes than they otherwise would. That's just economics, right? We gave you $200,000 to build a bigger home. And I've run the numbers, so I am a math guy. Like, I've run the numbers. When you build a $500,000 house, the city is giving you $200,000 to do it. That's silly. So that ends up bringing higher housing prices because you're building a bigger house than you would have otherwise, which then raises rents for everybody. And so what we need to be doing is looking at, I am very concerned that in neighborhoods where you have legacy, people have lived there for generations or decades, you have, when the housing next to you, or when the house next to you gets fixed up and now sells for $350,000, you should be excited that money's coming in your neighborhood. You shouldn't be terrified that you're going to lose your home. And so I think we need to not only reform tax abatements to move them into neighborhoods that need the investment, that are asking for the investment, but also we need to look at tax abatements to keep low-income legacy residents in their home, freeze their taxes so that they're not going up every year.
Someone wants to know, if elected mayor, would you shut down 3CDC or the port, or would you put some controls on those entities? And if so, what would the controls be?
Yeah, I think the big thing with those organizations is, look, those organizations are going to do what you ask them to do and what you set them up to do. I think 3CDC I'm not an apologist for 3CDC. I think that 3CDC did exactly what the city asked them to do, which was go in, buy everything up, tear it up, and replace it with high-end condos. And they did it. And so to me, I think 3CDC, frankly, is very effective at doing what it's been asked to do. It's just the question is how we asked to do it the right thing. And we haven't. So it's less about tearing up 3CDC. I mean, you can't argue they're not effective, right? They're effective. What you want is to have a city hall that starts driving policies that keep people in place. So saying, look, if you're going to do all this development, we really want mixed income housing in this city. We want to make sure that we are building affordable units into into larger development so that we can keep people in the neighborhoods. And that's what the mayor and city council need to do, is drive policies that do development without displacement. There are cities that have figured this out, but Cincinnati hasn't. So it's less about tearing up these organizations. It's more about giving them the guidance to work for everybody.
So you're an entrepreneur, correct?
I am, yeah.
And a couple of questions from the audience about your experience as an entrepreneur. One question is, on your last project,
Yeah.
What percentage of the work was done by Black folks? Would that be Black-owned firms or Black people in particular? And then if someone also wants to know currently, how many of your employees in your businesses are Black, and are they in leadership positions?
Yeah, so I'm not currently running a business with any employees. I've run 2 companies in this city. The last one was called Ekron Systems, and at our peak, we had about 50 employees. And it's a really fair question. So our company was a research and development company, a medical device company, and we were in fields that Black and brown people are historically underrepresented. So I'm a physicist by training, and fewer than 10% of physicists are Black. And that's been a problem for a very, very long time. So my opinion has always been, you got to work on the pipeline where you're at. So with my company, we did is, if you just put something on Indeed or whatever, you're going to get very few Black candidates. And not because there aren't any out there, but because just by the numbers, right? In these fields that are very underrepresented. So what we did was we went to UC, we went to the other universities in the region, and we reached out into their organizations, at the Society of Black Engineers, and the other organizations that were where we could find, like, you had to be active about it and go out and say, where are we going to find these Black engineers predominantly? And we were very successful at that. And we worked with UC on the co-op process so that we were hiring. UC created the engineering co-op process. So this is all engineering students at UC spend an extra year. It's a 5-year program, and one of those years they spend working at businesses. And it's really great because they get good experience, but also we get to find really great talent and then hire them. So then we'd make them offers before they would even graduate. And that's actually really good for Cincinnati because it keeps people in the region. And it's really good for businesses because we get to have these really brilliant young people working in our companies and hold on to them. So we were very, very active about that and made sure that we hired a lot of Black scientists and engineers who were predominantly coming straight out of school or were in school. Most of our employment base was pretty young. We were kind of average around like 25 years old. So I don't have numbers for you, but we were, all I can say is we went out of our way to find and help train really competent Black and brown people.
No ballpark numbers in terms of the percentage of Black employees, 10, 15, nothing like that?
I think between Black and brown employees, we're probably at 10, 15%. And yeah.
And you said you currently don't, you said you're currently not running a business where you have employees. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct. Yeah. So,
okay.
And for the last year, I've been doing consulting. I do strategic consulting for a few different things. A lot of small businesses, particularly technology companies all over the world. I'm an entrepreneur in residence at Case Western, so I help them spin out companies. So I've been doing a lot of that work, but I don't have employees.
You said you had, so one business was in the science world. What was the other business?
It was also in the science technology world. It's called Wave Tech, and it was an agricultural materials company.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, I'm a physicist by training. So that was all about creating light filters that improve productivity of greenhouses, which is really cool technology. And didn't get very far. We never had more than 4 people in the company.
So what happened to those companies? Did you sell them, or what happened to them?
The first company was short-lived. We built it. It was very much a research-based company. We built it. We got research grants. We raised some private money. We showed that the technology worked, and the commercial and the manufacturing didn't, and we turned it down. So it was me and a couple partners and 1 employee. Ekron, we built over the course of 6 years, and it was a medical diagnostic company based on using sweat instead of blood for diagnostics. So typically you go get a blood draw, they measure all these things. And a professor at the University of Cincinnati had this really great idea that you could measure these things in sweat, and then you could measure it over time instead of having to draw blood. Really cool, brand new cutting edge stuff. We led the world in it. We had over 70 patents and dozens of publications, and raised a lot of money doing it. And then when the pandemic hit, we just got crushed. So last year, in the beginning of the year, January, February, March, I was on the East and West Coast raising money. And then everything in venture just froze in March when all the traveling stopped. All the investments just froze up for months, and we were at a point where we couldn't survive that. So we've been selling off the assets from that company since.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
when I talk about the challenges of small business ownership, I understand them.
Yeah. I asked because, I was having a conversation with someone about you last week.
Sure.
And I was talking about he's an entrepreneur, and they said, and I can't remember verbatim, but essentially they were like, well, his business has failed. And I was the first time I'd ever heard it. Is that how you would characterize your entrepreneurial your background? Are they failures? Because I mean, you talk about that a lot, and I think that word entrepreneurial, it kind of catches people like this is somebody that knows how to get things done and create jobs. But if your business has ultimately failed, I mean, how should voters look at that experience?
Yeah, well, it's a very fair question, and it's one that I've wrestled with and actually written about. There's several. I have several columns in Inc. magazine exactly this, and talking about how most people are scared to ever say the word failure, and it's not, and I'm not. Ultimately, those companies did not have the outcome we wanted. Although, to be fair, the outcome we wanted for Ekron was to build $1 billion company, and I think there's a difference in understanding of how venture-backed companies grow. They're designed so that you're trying to do something that's either $1 billion company or dead, and there's no middle ground. And most startups ultimately fail. Actually, most companies ultimately fail. It's interesting, but most successful business owners are not on their first company. If we turned our back on every restaurateur who had a failed restaurant, we wouldn't have any restaurants in Cincinnati. And so I think it's a pretty unfair assessment to just be like, oh, so everything else fails. What we did in Ekron was the thing that's different about me when I talk about being an entrepreneur versus a lot of businesses is we were trying to change the world. We weren't just trying to make an app that made your pictures look funny. We were trying to build something that fundamentally changed how medical diagnostics worked, so that people's lives would be different. I have a friend who has been struggling with kidney disease for the last decade. And actually in the pandemic this January, he got a new kidney, which is amazing. What's really amazing is there's actually another friend of ours who donated his kidney, which is like, I cannot think of an act of selflessness greater than giving somebody your kidney. But the reason I mention it is he was a lot of my inspiration. People with kidney disease go on dialysis. I was actually talking to a voter yesterday in Bond Hill who's on dialysis, and it's terrible. Dialysis is terrible. You're sitting there connected to the machine for hours. It's really uncomfortable. It totally changes your life. So one of the things we were looking at was whether we could measure in sweat indicators that told you what was happening in your blood so that you wouldn't need to do dialysis as often. I mentioned that to say, like, no one in the world had ever tried to do that. And we led the world in this. And our company was ultimately unsuccessful, in part due to, things we did, in part due to the fact that a global pandemic killed companies left and right. I mean, look, we don't know how many Black-owned small businesses crashed this last year in Cincinnati. I think the estimate from the African American Chamber was at least 400, right? And to blame all of them for the failures of their company is a little unfair. But what is happening with that is we moved this entire field of research forward. There are now half a dozen other companies out there that are trying to move this technology forward and looking to license our intellectual property. So when you're trying to do really, really big things, sometimes you won't land them. But if you can make an impact on the way, it's a great thing. So I'll tell you, did we make $1 billion on this company? No. What we did was hire over 100 people over the course of this company, many of them early in their career. I've yet to meet one of them that doesn't treasure the time they spent in our company because we taught them so much. We worked so hard and moved so fast. And we invested in a workplace here in Cincinnati. We brought over $30 million of investment into Cincinnati. including federal grants, to build this technology. And in doing that, we hired and trained a huge workforce of biotech people that are now out starting other companies. One of them starting another company that just got funding here in Cincinnati. Another one, my COO, my number two, she's now is the COO of another startup. We have over 100 alumni from our company that are now out making good wages and contributing to Cincinnati's economy. So I feel really good about that part of it. Do I wish I made a whole bunch of money doing it? Yes. Do I wish our technology were on the market? Absolutely. But I'm not going to stop trying to do great things that can change the world for the better. And I think we have to. We can't just try and move things incrementally along. We got to look at new ways to completely reframe our society. And that's why, I talk about big ideas. That's why you see in my plan for recovery, it's not, well, I'll put $1 million here, $1 million there, and all pet projects. It's about new ideas that other cities have done that have changed their economy and invested in people. And that's what I want to do.
So last question, just because of time, and then I'll give you I'll give you the floor for some last comments. But my question is about city manager and police chief. If elected mayor, you got a decision to make. Have you given thought to the characteristics that you'll be looking for in the next police chief and also the city manager? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, it's a very fair question, and I won't speak to individuals in their positions now. They've never worked for me, and I'm not gonna speak ill of them. I'll say, as I look forward, when we have the opportunity to hire a new city manager, and certainly we will be able to hire a new police chief. Hopefully, it will happen in my administration. The things I look for is aligning on this vision. So I talked about how we have to have a vision for an equitably growing Cincinnati. And as I've run organizations, my whole thing has been about leadership and ownership at every level. It's something I haven't seen in City Hall. I see a City Hall that everyone I know who's worked with City Hall, and I don't mean to in any way demean our civil servants who are working really hard, but I mean there's a culture that's been built there that is around everyone telling you, okay, I'm seeing these things that say you're not going to talk bad about the police. Give me a moment. I'm saying I'm not going to. I'm seeing these comments, Nathan, in real time. I'm not going to speak ill of individuals. But here's my point. We need leadership, starting with the mayor who has a vision for an equitably growing Cincinnati. That says we have to actively address the challenges in our city, and we have to empower our civil servants to do their jobs and to serve the people in Cincinnati. You've heard the story before, but I'm going to share it for everybody. So I think one of the greatest things, I think you may have asked me this, one of the things I've done that was the most impactful as far as my personal activities in the Black community was helping build this school, the Donald and Marion Spencer School. And I mentioned it serves 350 kids from all over the city. And one of the things that I didn't talk about here is this issue with the crosswalk, but I think gives you a great example of City Hall. You ready for the story, Nathan? I know you've heard it before. Yeah. Everybody, I get to see Nathan and try and make him smile. It's hard. Okay, so the crosswalk. School opened, we didn't have a single crosswalk. And we had 7-year-olds crossing the street and they weren't safe. So I worked with the Walnut Hills Community Council. We worked with the Frederick Douglass School. They put in a letter of support for us because they're cat-a-corner to Spencer Center. And for 3 years, we didn't get a crosswalk. That City Hall told us that there wasn't budget and that it wasn't a priority. And then 13 Cincinnati public school kids got hit by cars walking to school. A couple weeks later, without any communication, we walk in on a Monday and there's a crosswalk. And I just think we shouldn't have a City Hall that doesn't act until kids die. And actually what's worse is they knew the kids had died. They didn't act until the Inquirer wrote an article about how the kids had died, until somebody made it a big public stink. And that's the problem, is that if you go to City Hall today, whether you're a small business, whether you're trying to get a stop sign in your neighborhood, anything, they'll tell you it's not my problem, and they'll try and push things around. And we need a City Hall that's focused on serving people. So that's the biggest thing for me, is hiring a city manager who's not just looking out for the wealthy donors of the mayor, but is looking out for the people of Cincinnati and trying to make a better, more equitable city. And that's what I'm going to look for. And with a police chief, I'm going to look for a police chief that 100% is bought into making Cincinnati the most progressive police force in the nation. I think we can do it. My big issue with police reform is that we only act on it when somebody gets shot. You see it. Every time there's a shooting of usually an unarmed black man across the city, everybody gets uncomfortable here. And the thing is, if we were doing the right thing, we wouldn't need to get uncomfortable here, right? We shouldn't wait for the next shooting before we continue our work on police reform. We've built the structure and we've abandoned it. After 5 years of oversight, and it's important to remember that in the collaborative agreement, the city was forced into that by the courts, right? We act as if they were, oh yeah, we're going to do this stuff. No, they're forced into it. And after 5 years, when judicial oversight dropped, the city stopped working on it. And then 3 years ago, thanks to the hard work of Irish Rowley and Black United Front and others, we got this collaborative agreement refreshed. We spent $300,000 on it, and we put it on a shelf, and we walked away. And now, I know people keep fighting us. I've talked to Iris about it. I'm sure she's over here. So Iris is commenting as we go. I know we're fighting. I know we're making progress, but I think we're making progress begrudgingly in this city because we view every bit of progress as something that the police are giving up instead of viewing it as completely changing how we think about police. That we should only have an armed police officer in the most extreme cases, that most things don't require a police officer. I just fundamentally believe that when you show up with a gun to a situation, the chance of violence goes up. And why we allow people with guns into our schools to say that we're going to keep the schools safe by bringing guns in, I don't understand. Why we have people with guns responding to people having, nonviolent, mental health crises, I don't understand. So we need to start lifting things off of the police. We need to completely commit to the collaborative agreement. We need a mayor who's going to be serious about this and prioritize this and do this not just because he's being forced to, but because it's the right thing to do. And also it's something Cincinnati can lead on. We have a long history of leading on issues. We used to have the most progressive architecture and arts and culture scene and best public transportation in the country. And we've become okay with not addressing our challenges and not leading the country. I want Cincinnati on the map for things like, as mayor, I want Cincinnati in the New York Times for having the most progressive police community relations in the country, not for having the most corrupt city hall in the country.
You know what? If you still got time, some more questions came up as you were talking. One about policing. I mean, we have this. Seems like every year we have a conversation about the number of police officers that we have. What is your opinion on the number of officers? I think we're a little over 1,000, and we're going to be losing some retirement or whatever. There's a big debate about what that number should be. What is your opinion about the number of officers? Could we get by in Cincinnati with less officers?
Yeah, I think the answer is absolutely if we start rethinking what we need officers for. And I think that's the big challenge. I think we've gotten to a point where we believe that police are responsible for responding to absolutely everything that comes in. And I think we need to rethink that. We already rethink. I've heard my opponent talk about, well, how could we tell the difference between whether we need a police officer or whether we need a social worker? And the answer is, well, we know when it's a fire that the police aren't going to be able to put it out. We know when somebody has a heart attack that the police aren't the ones that need to respond. We need an ambulance. I don't see why we can't start rethinking about how we do 911 response. And also in our communities, why we can't have more and more people who aren't armed police officers. So if you keep thinking about police as carrying every burden in our society, then of course you need more police. But if you think about police as starting to whittle down their role to only the places where you need a highly trained police officer, then I think we can do with fewer. And to that point, we have so much progress to do. Now, Newark's not perfect, but I think everyone saw this news that Newark police went an entire year without firing their gun, right? And that's I can't today imagine that Cincinnati would even attempt to do that. Now, there's a SAG code on it because I'm pretty sure in January there was a police shooting, but they're trying to do better. Now, again, they only are doing that because the Department of Justice came in and took over, right? And so this is, again, where I want Cincinnati government to be proactive and say, why don't we reform police because it's the right thing to do, not because somebody's forcing us to do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you wrote an op-ed piece in the Inquirer And I believe the headline read that if you were elected mayor, you would end corruption. I'd like to know how would you end corruption in City Hall from the mayor's perspective?
Yeah. The first thing is by leading by example. Corruption's much deeper than taking money from developers.
Is that an indictment on the current mayor?
Well, I think that the current mayor, look, right now you have development deals happening downtown that are highly controversial, and you have a mayor who's taken over $100,000 from the people getting tax money to do those developments. Is that illegal? No, it's not illegal. Is it good for the city? No, it's not good for the city, right? The reality is we should have a mayor that there is never even a hint of impropriety, that there's never even a question of where his loyalties lie. And that's why I'm not taking money from developers. You know, because you asked about it, that the only candidate who's not taking money from developers, while my opponents are taking tens of thousands of dollars from the same people that are going to be asking for millions of dollars in tax money. And that's not right. And so while my opponents talk about how maybe if they're mayor, they might require that members of council follow different rules than them, literally, one of my opponents keeps talking about how he thinks that members of council shouldn't in the future shouldn't take money from developers, even though he's taking money from developers, and thinks that as mayor, he should still be allowed to take money from developers. That's not leadership. Leadership is doing the right thing, not doing what's convenient for you politically. So it starts, Nathan, with doing the right thing when it's hard. You know, why did they take money from developers? The same reason that bank robbers rob banks, right? It's where the money is. But we've been able to show that we can run a people-powered campaign. We've taken more small dollar donations than all the rest of our opponents combined. And we've been able to outraise two of the career politicians combined because regular people are excited about what we're trying to do and excited about changing the future in Cincinnati. So it starts with personal leadership. It also, I think we need a mayor who's less pugilitive, right? Who's not fighting all the time. And part of that is because we keep electing career politicians that are more interested in their next race than they are in doing their job. And so at all times, they not only want to get in the newspaper, but they also want to get credit for everything. It's why City Hall doesn't work with CPS. Look, I'm the candidate in this race who actually has kids in public schools and has seen how hard it's been this year. And what I saw was City Hall didn't do anything to help. They were out to lunch. And the problem is because there's nobody in City Hall who has kids in public schools. I think there's one member of council who has kids in public schools. And so they don't understand how hard it is for families, especially when you're working parents and you're trying to make ends meet while you have a kid at home because schools are closed. And city could have done a lot more. It's why one of our 7 big ideas. So I'll also just point out that unlike my opponents, I actually write down my positions so that I can be held accountable for them. If you like them, you don't like them, you disagree with them, go to my website, votegavi.com, go to the Cincinnati Recovery Plan, check out our 7 big ideas, and tell me what you think. Because we have a bunch of candidates that will get on these forums and kind of dance around and say a bunch of fluffy stuff, but never commit to anything. So one of the things that is our big idea, it's really simple, create a CPS liaison at City Hall whose whole job is to know what's going on in CPS and public schools and to help the public schools know what's going on in the city. The moral of my story on the crosswalk is not that I should have been more persuasive. It's that I never should have had to ask for a crosswalk, because if City Hall understood that CPS, that public schools are the backbone of our society, and by the way, our public schools are majority Black, right? Even though our city's not. And that's not a coincidence. So when you don't support public schools, what you're not doing is not supporting Black Cincinnati. And if we had a City Hall that understood that, they would have been there saying, you're opening a new school? How can we help? What do you need? And when I asked the city manager about this, I said, who at City Hall pays attention to CPS? She said, our lawyers talk. And when your lawyers are the only ones talking, you're not trying to solve problems.
Who would that liaison report to?
They report directly to the city manager. There is an important distinction. I want to be clear, like the mayor's job vis-a-vis the administration is to hire the city manager, set priorities and all that, not to muck about in individual personnel issues. So but what I learned running a business, and anybody will tell you this who's ever run an organization, if you want something to get taken care of, you need to hire somebody whose job is dependent on it. So let's have somebody whose job is to make sure that the city works with CPS. And let's make sure we work with the county. because the biggest issues in the city are county issues, like the MSD sewage overflow, which, by the way, predominantly hurts Black people. And the city won't work with the county because they don't want to inherit the problem, and because they want to go run for higher office and want to be able to talk about all the things they solved and walk away from all the problems still left.
I know City Council has an education committee. Isn't that what they're supposed to do? Sort of liaise or connect with and communicate with CPS?
There's a difference between the council level and the administrative level, right? Council has a job to do, and that is to be informed about what's going on and create policies that drive the administration. But within the administration, we need people on the working level who know what's going on the other side of the working level, and we don't have that.
Well, Gabby, listen, I really appreciate your time. I could talk another hour with you, but
let's do it again. I
on.
plan to be in the general, so we'll get to do this again.
If it goes down that way, I'd like to talk to you later this week.
All right.
Let's tentatively plan something. If it goes that way, for Wednesday.
I'll be there.
I just want to give you the floor so you can talk directly to the audience. Sure. Any last words?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for giving me a chance to have this conversation. And thank you for asking hard questions, because that's what our city and our democracy needs, is people who are going to push on issues and not let anyone be comfortable. And so I appreciate that. For all of you paying attention, for all of you listening, this election really, really matters. I know that turnout's going to be low in this primary. It always has been. And it's a shame, because if you don't vote in this primary, you might not like the choices you have in the general. Who's actually trying to change the future of the city, I think the case is pretty clear. I've been out trying to make sure we're talking about the real issues and thinking about real policies that make a difference, not just smoke and mirrors and platitudes. So plan to vote. You can vote today at the Board of Elections. You can vote tomorrow, May 4th, at your polling places. Make sure you know where you can vote. Get out there. And it's not too late to help. If you decided that you want to help me out, go to votegavi.com/volunteer. Send us a note. We need people knocking doors. We need people calling people. Or, just tell your friends. Tell your friends you heard from me and you think that I should have a chance to try and change the future of this city. I really appreciate it. And I hope to talk to you on Wednesday.
All right, Gabby. I'll follow up with you, man. Good luck.
Thanks.
Take it easy.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. So we had him for about a good solid hour, maybe a little bit less, maybe 55 minutes or something like that. But what did you think, folks? I'll let that process. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to stick with you for another couple of minutes. I'm going to take another quick break and come right back. It's the Nathan Ivey Show, where nothing is funnier than the truth, and men are expected to be men. And we'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Could really use a change of scenery. Yeah. Everybody smoking all the greenery. Yeah. Close the match 'cause they were handed down to me. But I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Pills to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out. So right now, say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Oh, cheers to all the haters, 'cause you proved to me that rising to the top was my destiny. And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Close to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out, it's time. with your chest now. Say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out.
Hello, I'm Mr. Same Old Same Old. I'm running for mayor.
Hold up. Haven't you run for a bunch of offices always promising change but doing nothing?
Yeah, but
Nothing. I'm not voting for the same old politicians to clean up City Hall and create change. We need to vote Profit for mayor. He will be bold, courageous, fair, and stop corruption at City Hall. I'm voting for Profit. Profit for people.
I'm Raphael Profit, and I'm asking for your vote, as I will do what is right, what is just, and what is fair. Paid for by Profit for Mayor, Dwight Crawford, Treasurer.
I believe in you, me, you, me, you, me, you, me, yeah.
All right, good morning, everybody. We just had Gabby Bishop on for about an hour. What did you think? What do you think about his responses? Do you think he'd be a good mayor? I mean, real quick, in the time we have left, what do you think, or who do you think, who are you supporting? Here's a better question. Who are you supporting in tomorrow's election for mayor? I just need one name. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but I'm curious. Tomorrow is the election. We've been talking about it, seems, for months and months now. Good morning to you. And again, when you hear political campaign ads, those are not personal endorsements. This is a media platform, and we offer that for candidates and for businesses, events. Just hit me with a direct message, perhaps on this show or any of the podcasts and live streams you hear with CDM. They all hit different elements of the audience, and we do reach people. Yeah, it's 100%. Good morning to you. So what do you think? What do you think? We got a big decision to make, huh? Very interesting. I'm still not happy that we don't have a female in the mayoral's race. I think that's missing. We have nothing but men, nothing against them. But something tells me it's the men that have messed up this country and this city. We do need some strong female leadership. I could definitely get behind that 100%. But we don't have that. We got to vote for the people that made it on the ballot. It is what it is. But what do you think about Gabby? I'll tell you one thing. I did have to ask the question about the failure. You know, I'm a big believer in failure. You should get up at, man, I fail all the time. If you ain't failing, you ain't working. I have no problem with failure whatsoever. If you look at people who are serial entrepreneurs and they finally find success, typically, if you want to call it failure, they've had a lot of businesses that didn't work out or the way they planned it. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. If you're not failing, you ain't trying. Simple as that. And don't let other people tell you what failure is. I fail all the time. Shit be going wrong. I come up with ideas. They don't work. I don't give a damn. I keep the vision is what matters. Failure is nothing more than other people's assessment and nothing more than a way to learn. If you're not failing, then you ain't trying. Simple as that. Period. Failure is a part of the best things in life. It is a part of it, especially in this entrepreneurial space, this business space. You don't know sometime until you get out there. I don't know. It's the same thing we're doing with CDM. I know what the vision is, but I can't tell you what's going to happen. I don't know. I know what I want to happen. But no matter what happens, I feel like when you put your all into something, that in and of itself is success. That's just me personally. Now, other people might look at it differently, but I think when you go super hard on something, like you really dedicate yourself, no matter what happens, you're winning because you're exercising the right muscles, right? And you got to exercise the right muscles. So, but I did have to ask that question. I mean, literally, I was having a conversation last week. I liked his response. That's what I was looking for. That's what the response should be. Don't let other people tell you what failure is. And see, a lot of people are afraid to step outside their comfort zone. I see I still got Edna up. Edna Howell is coming back. Very pleased to be working with her. But a lot of people are afraid to fail. I'm not one of those people. I don't give a damn. Everybody can see it. That's your opinion about it. You know what I'm saying? I'll process it myself and decide as to what I think about it, whether I learn something or not. So don't be afraid to step out there. A lot of people are afraid to take that first step because they're afraid about what people going to say. They're going to say shit anyway. You know what I'm saying? So you got to do you. Do you. And again, it's a lot of you. If you look at a lot of successful entrepreneurs, you ask them, they've had a bunch of businesses that nobody remembers, that nobody knew about, that didn't work. That's just a part of the game. That's a part of it. Kathy writes, that's that Virgo thing, 100%. Like I said, when I got I remember doing my first show on Straight Talk, I was so nervous I couldn't even get the words out at first. I was nervous as hell, but I did it anyway. You know what I'm saying? You do it through the fear. Everybody's afraid. I remember watching. I was watching an episode of Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. He has his own podcast. And Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, the man who everybody said was the baddest man on the planet, he can whoop anybody. He ain't afraid of nobody. He talked about how he was terrified when he first got in the ring with some of these people, but he did it anyway. So it's not the absence of fear. That's just a human thing. You got to push through that shit. You got to push through it. Do it anyway. Your hands might be shaking. Your voice might be creaky. Do it anyway. All right. Exercise working in that space. Do it anyway. And that's what people who are successful, and you see them on TV. Diddy, I bet he was terrified the first time he got on stage. I never seen him in an interview say that, but all these folks, they're just humans. They ain't no different than you and me. You do it anyway. You do it anyway. You go through the fear. Brian writes, hot boxing is the ish. Enjoy that show, good and bad. Me too. I like I said, all these podcasts, all these different people out here, I love it. It's just so much better, y'all. It's just so much better. You got so much more entertainment and information. That's why I like doing what we're doing and offering these opportunities, because I want to be a part of that here locally. Matter of fact, we are a part of it. Can't nobody tell me nothing about the folks I work with. These folks I'm working with, Donnie, all these folks, man, listen. These are all top flight talents, 100%. We're growing. We are going to be there very, very soon. And people will say, where did you come from? And we'll say, we've been here. We've been doing this. That's just the way the world works. I already know it. But hot boxing is the shit, though. Yeah, do it scared. You got to do it scared. You got to walk through it. It's not that. See, now I've been doing it for so long, I don't really feel anything. And I miss that. I miss those butterflies. You got to chase those little butterflies. You got to do things that give you those butterflies. That's the best stuff in life. Best stuff in life. Like, for instance, I'm no public speaker, but whenever I get an opportunity, I always take it. And I take it because it gives me butterflies. It makes me nervous. And I don't feel nervous anymore when I do this. This is nothing to me now, right? I've been doing it for so long, it's like anything else. So I miss those butterflies, being nervous, being unsure about something. I look for those opportunities. And I always say, yeah, if I got the time. If I don't, I don't. But if I got the time, I'm going to do it. Why? Because it's going to make me better. It's going to stretch me. It's going to pull me out of my comfort zone. Stay the fuck out the comfort zone. Get the fuck out your comfort zone this morning. If you don't do nothing else, stay out your comfort zone. That's where all the weak shit is. You already been there. Do something new. Do something that's going to make you nervous. Something that's going to make you scared, right? It's going to make your voice crack and your hands shake and your knees shake. Do that. That's what you should be doing. But again, I could go on and on and on and on, but I won't do it. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I really appreciate you. Thanks to my guests. Thanks to Edna Howe. I didn't get a chance to talk about this other story. I'll save it for tomorrow. Very, very sad story. I don't even really want to talk about it, but I think it's, I've got an important spin, if you want to look at it, or an angle on it that I want to share with you that I think is sort of evergreen. Doesn't matter where you are. If you're a Black person, you can get into it. If you're a person in particular, you can get into it. So I'll save that for tomorrow, perhaps. But you never know what tomorrow brings. This is a 24-hour news cycle. Show to show, things can change. But again, tomorrow is the election. Get out there and vote, folks. Get out there and vote. I know, again, I'm speaking to the choir. All these people in here, the majority of them, very smart, intelligent people who are not just voters. They're influencers. All right. I already know. But tell your friends, make sure they're educated and make an educated decision. And tomorrow is the election. Now, when we're on the air tomorrow, it'll be before the election, so we'll talk about it. And then on Wednesday, what I'm hoping to do is catch up with the winners. You know, I love to talk with the winners. I go to all the winners parties. I'm not going to no losers parties. No offense, but it's always a Debbie Downer and people are looking sad. You go to the winners party, people are happy. I don't drink, but the alcohol is flowing. People are dancing. It's always a good time. No, hold on. We got Fane Rothstein on the line. Hold on, Fane. Call me right back. I'll put you straight on, bro. He was on the line holding. I almost forgot about that, brother. I want to make sure I honor his time. Call me back, Fame, and I will make sure I get you on the air, brother. Or I might just call him back. But he can call me back. Call me back. I'll put you straight on, man. I'll wait for you because I appreciate you calling into the show. So we got a couple minutes here before people move on. I know there's other shows and other places you want to get to. I definitely respect that. Have an excellent day. If he doesn't get in today, I'll make sure he gets in tomorrow whenever he calls in. But he was on the line. I got caught up in the flow. I fully admit it. You know, I want to make sure I made that point about being scared and doing things anyway. All right. All right. Well, it looks like that's the time. So listen, have an excellent rest of your day. It's the beginning of the work week. Make it a momentous Monday. Gain some momentum today that'll carry you throughout the rest of the week. And I'll holler at you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 7:30 a.m. Approximately 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll chop it up on everything that's going on, right? Viva la Choppers. Viva la my patrons. Thank you for another month of your patronage. Hopefully, you're proud of your boy. I'm doing exactly what I told you I'm going to do, that I set out to do. I'm not going nowhere until we reach the finish line together. Simple as that. All right. So have an excellent rest of your day. Remember our motto: winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. Stay focused and stay winning. And we'll talk real soon. Until next time, I'm Nathan Ivey, and I'm out.
Yeah. Talking to my mirror like I love you so much. Curving on my critics like I heard you, so what? You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the I ever gave on my head. Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a that's what they don't understand. I'm back again like flu season. I broke records while loose leafing. I'm coming down my roof, leaving. Don't give a I don't care. Did the for my lonesome. No wonder now I'm on one. No shortcuts on that long run. All I really want is my share. Get on my God, on my totem is nothing. In the discussion, for them feelings I throw all my pain on percussion. It's disgusting. I hear them bragging about that they did, and it do not move me, not in the least. They ain't been dropping no seeds in the soil, but swear that you all must spot at the feast. I've been on go mode, showboat, rowboat, wave ride. Cool shorty, too naughty, pool party, wet for the face ride. Annie up, penny down, hand me down, thrift store, old drip. New money, too funny, old shorty, talk about old. I'm on they now, can't get a pass now. I'm a cash cow, keeping it brash now. It's trash now, I'm a spaz out. I've been killing my lows and living on highs. You see in the sky's the proof. You could just see in my eyes that there is no lies. I cannot disguise the truth. I've been ducked off, getting to my new merch, color duck sauce on the new couch with my chucks on. Get the on with that hate. I'm big cool on the small chat, cause I know now that I'm all that. Got a hawk guy on the ball cat, get the out of my face. Talking to my mirror like I love you so much. Curving on my critics like I heard you, so what? You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the I ever gave on my head.